Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto become a dark Jedi of Star Wars. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Rey's plan was doomed the moment it was conceived and executed. With her hands cuffed behind her back, Rey was forced to her knees by her captors, awaiting her imminent demise haplessly in the hangar bay of the First Order's Star Destroyer. The Resistance had placed their hopes and dreams on her, an overwhelming burden that she carried on her shoulders with pride and purpose, but now she was at the mercy of the enemy. "You don't scare me, you hear me," she bellowed to the legion of stormtroopers, who were unmoving and impassive. A sense of foreboding washed over her, shaking her down to her core as she heard footsteps heading her way. She glanced up and red vicious dagger at the Black Knight of the First Order, Kylo Ren. His mechanical voice betrayed no emotion, just cruel amusement. "We were wondering how we could capture you, but you came right to us. Like a moth to fire." Rey bit her lower lip. "The Resistance will prevail." At that, Kylo scoffed. "If you know what I know, you will know how ridiculous you sound." Hate was an understatement to describe what Rey felt about Kylo Ren. He had a loving father, a caring mother, and the warmth of a family. Those were things she never had and had always wanted. But yet he had thrown it all away like they meant nothing. No, he had murdered his own father in cold blood. "I sense anger in you." It was almost a whisper, but she heard Kylo's voice clear as day. "Let it grow, the anger. If you want to even hope to match me in strength, you need anger." "I don't need that." She looked haughty all of a sudden. "I already beat you in the forest, didn't I?" It worked. She ticked him off. Enough foe. Him to rush to her in a fit of rage and cupped her chin violently. "You will watch your tone, girl." The fire of defiance in her eyes would never be snuffed out, that she swore on her life. Rey won. She let Kylo get the satisfaction of her defeat, if the grin on her face was anything to go by. It was then she felt a tremor. No, it wasn't like the Star Destroyer was quaking. Rey wouldn't go as far to say she was the master of the Force. Hell, she barely knew anything about it, but she had a connection with her mysterious gift. It allowed her to resonate with the things around her, empowered her when she was in peril, and guided her to things. This tremor was from the Force. It was screaming in anguish. The Force was afraid, something she never thought possible. Kylo saw something behind Rey's shoulder and went stiffened. Much to her surprise, Kylo took a step back and dropped to his knees subserviently. The entire battalion of stormtroopers did the same too. Rey swallowed down her trepidation as she detected a tsunami of raw power coming from whatever monster that was behind her. She always thought the Force was something that cannot be bent or mauled, but she was wrong. The Force had surrendered itself to the darkness. It was cold and dread that took over her senses. She couldn't even move a muscle. Fear had paralyzed her. Whatever that was behind her, it was close. "I see that the girl managed to rile you up, Kylo Ren. All hail Lord Naruto." The thunderous greeting startled Rey. She was like a trophy, being scrutinized like a piece of meat by something she didn't even know about. Cloaked in pitch black, the man encircled Rey like a vulture surveying its prey. Sweats were forming profusely on Rey's forehead. She had never felt fear like this before. Her heart was pounding vigorously in her chest. But her blood went cold when she gazed up and saw those eyes. Demonic. It was what Rey could surmise. Red, soulless eyes stared into Rey's soul, plunging into her mind scooping out every juicy detail about her identity in split seconds. She could resist Kylo Ren's intrusion of her mind, but there was no fighting against this one. Any attempt to raise any barriers in her mind was futile. Her defenses were bulldozed down effortlessly. Like her struggle wasn't even recognized as such. "Rey, that is your name, isn't it?" His voice was melodic, mirthful and filled with life. Something that vastly contradicted his villainous appearance. "I like it. Like a ray of hope. Or a ray of light from the end of the tunnel. A symbol of hope." When she managed to have a good look at him, she was surprised to see how young the man before him was. He was devilish handsome, with strong jaws, short trimmed hair that reflected the sun and had a set of white teeth. His smile contained no hint of malice, but treacherous kindness. It almost made Rey drop her guard. Almost. I was on my way to headquarters when the resistance attacked us. I was surprised that they have a Jedi in their mix. He gave Rey an appraising look, much to her disgust. I always thought the Jedi was no more. Well, I'm glad I was wrong. But this does beg the question. Why will the resistance send a lone Jedi to us? Did they possibly think a Jedi, untrained some more, can hope to achieve something from this? Don't underestimate me, Rey growled. Oh, I will never. Naruto raised his hands in a surrender notion. I heard you beat my apprentice. If Kylo's pride was hurt from his master's statement, he did well not to show it. I thought Snoke was that monster's master. Monster? You mean Kylo? Naruto looked behind him and studied Kylo for a moment, his face looked thoughtful. Well, I'm glad he is one. But you're wrong. Snoke is a representative of the Order of the Sith Lords. To the galaxy, the Supreme Leader leads the First Order. He is a farce, a mask that we put up so that the world doesn't know who truly pulls the strings. Confusion and dismay filmed Rey's eyes. She didn't understand what was going on. If this man spoke the truth, then the resistance was awfully oblivious about what they were up against. There was a nefarious mastermind behind the deeds of a cruel dictator that governed the First Order. What kind of clusterfuck had she landed herself into? Ops. He covered his mouth, feigning surprise. I said too much. You know too much now, Rey. You know what happened when an enemy knows too much, right? Kill me. Rey would not submit to the monsters dwelling within the First Order. If she had to die, then so it shall be. The moment she decided to infiltrate the First Order to disable the shield generators for the resistance, she had mentally prepared herself for her death in the hands of the enemy. For the sake of the peace of the galaxy, she would die with honor. By any chance, were you trained by Luke? Rey shut her eyes. It was pointless for any discourse between them. She was ready. Naruto sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose as he mused to himself. An untrained Jedi managed to beat my apprentice. I'm not sure how to feel about this. Master, please. Kylo Ren stood up. Frustration, humiliation and contempt were making his blood boil beyond cognizant. Allow me to kill her and be done with this. Silence intruded. Rey didn't know what happened for the next few seconds, for those dreadful seconds seemed to be eternity for her. But the silence was disrupted when she heard a loud thud and Kylo's smothered voice. Creaking open an eye, she was shocked to see Kylo writhing on the floor, desperately crawling at his neck to get air. You have disgraced the Order and yet you have the audacity to make demands from me. Please. Kylo wheezed out in between pants. Please forgive me, Master. Naruto heaved out a deep breath and Kylo's body sagged. Pull yourself together, Kylo Ren. You are one of my brightest pupils. I expect more from you. Regaining his composure and strength, Kylo groggily climbed to his feet and bowed. My apology, Master. I promise you. Save it. Naruto raised a hand, cutting his apprentice off. You know me well. I don't like to hear empty promises. I am a man of action. After all, action will always speak louder than words. Why yes, my master. Naruto diverted his attention to Rey, who shrunk fearfully. Now, as I was saying, I am not a fan of senseless murder. I see potential in you, Rey. Why don't you join us? Go to hell. Despite being devoured by terror, Rey's conviction and faith to the resistance was unwavering. She didn't know what drove her to do what she was about to do, but she did it anyway. She spat at Naruto's face. It was heresy at the highest order. Bad idea. In a fraction of a second, before Rey could even register what hit her, her face was slammed painfully to the unforgiving floor. The menacing heat of red lightsabers were near her swollen cheek. Mustering her fortitude, she looked up while groaning, only to gape at the sight before her. Kylo Ren wasn't the only Sith amongst the First Order. There were more, and they were all furious. Scratch that. Murderous rage filmed all their eyes. The First Order's deadliest assassins descended upon her, their blades were buzzing dangerously close to her neck. They were one command away from beheading Rey's head. Naruto wiped the goo off his chiseled face, his features became inscrutable. What a spitfire. Reckless, daring, and definitely no sense of self-importance. You remind me so much about my younger self, Rey. Honestly, if I were you, I would have spat at my own face. That being said, I can't T let you do what you just did and let you go unpunished, right? I believe it is only right that I instill some discipline into you. For the next few days, Ray was confined to a small, dark cell. Naked, starving, and scared, Ray could only hug her knees close to her bare chest in the corner of her prison as a means of solacing herself that everything would be okay. But deep down, she knew that hope was creeping out of her reality. Everything had gone to shit. There was no telling if the resistance would organize a rescue team for her. No, she wouldn't want that. The First Order was too powerful than they had initially envisioned. Now that Ray knew the Supreme Leader Snoke was a mere puppet and that there was a more sinister plot at hand, it would be unwise for the resistance to come for her. Hell, the First Order might be counting on that to happen. Ray shook her head and wiped the tears from her freckled cheeks. It's gonna be okay. I have to believe in the Force. Master Skywalker said so. You just need to give in. She clamped her ears shut, but it was not enough to squash down the rich, dark voice. It had been seducing her to submerge into her despair, something she had outright refused. But, no matter how ironclad her will was or how adamant she intended to be, Ray couldn't drive out Naruto's voice. Day in, day out, he had been tempting her to the dark side of the Force, feeding her with words of poison. She was not a feeble child and she would not break so easily. What's the matter, Ray? You know, don't you? The resistance has forsaken you. Shut up, she hissed. Why shouldn't they? It's a suicide mission for them to come and rescue a weak, untrained Jedi wannabe. And for what? I said. Shut up. Wait, you actually think you're their last hope? Ray gritted her teeth. She could hear his chuckle, mocking her resolve. No, my dear Ray. You are not their last hope. Don't you get it? Shut up. Believe me when I say this. They never have hoped to begin with. Their hope died when Luke Skywalker decided to go exile. If they have to pin their hope on you, then I have sorely overestimated them. They are not worthy to be the First Order's adversary. They are just nuisance. Ants. Inferior. Shut up. Tell me, Ray, how do you squash an ant? Do you take a hammer and crush it? Or do you use a thumb and make it die? I am loyal to the resistance. My friends. The people who trusted me. I won't let them down, you hear me? The First Order is your only hope left. A weak grin curled at her dried lips. You think torturing me like this is gonna make me change? You must be the biggest idiot in the history of idiots. Fascinating. You never cease to amaze me, Ray. You have a great fighting spirit. I see a great deal of myself in you. I look forward to training you one day. Fuck you. Keep that pent-up rage up. You'll need it when your training starts. I said fuck you. Relinquishing her despondence and rage, Ray let out a bone-chilling scream. She kept screaming until her voice broke in her throat. Went hoarse. Remember well, Ray, good and evil, they are relative concepts. Think about that. For once in a very long time, Ray broke down and sobbed. Alma Rar had beauty, brains and brawn, a formidable assassin amongst the First Order. A life of hardship and poverty had made the Rudian Twi'lek nihilistic, until he came into her life and gave her purpose. She venerated, nay, she worshipped her lord and master, Naruto Uzumaki with her heart and soul. He rescued her from the slums, molded her into an unstoppable killing machine, and showed her the world. If it wasn't for her master's intervention, Alma would have been a prostitute in Ryloth, dying from some godforsaken diseases without fulfilling anything significant in her life. When her lord summoned her for a private meet, she knew there was business at hand. Do you know why I called for you, Alma? Naruto waved at his apprentice towards his auburn leather couch. The Twi'lek bowed and sat before her master. I would not presume to know. Take a wild guess. Swirling the glass of vintage rum in his hand, Naruto took an appreciative sip and let out a sigh of content. Come on, you're a smart girl. You know why I called for you. Alma contemplated for a minute before she answered stoically. You want me to train the Jedi. Aha. Naruto pointed a finger at his emotionless apprentice. A Cheshire grin found its way to his face. Clever girl. Permission to speak freely, my lord. The blonde waved a dismissive hand. Shoot. You have always been the one who personally oversee your apprentice's training. Why would you want me to do it this time? Do not doubt your abilities, Alma. You are one of my wisest students. I chose you because I have faith in your competence to nurture and cultivate Rey. Bring her to the dark side. Make her see the wonder of this place. Show her the ropes." Pointing at the plate of cookies on his dark wood desk, he shrugged. "Hell, go nuts and use cookies as bait if you wish. I want you to start learning how to raise pupils of your own. Believe it, I don't think it is prudent to teach the ways of the Sith to a Jedi." Alma scowled. For all we know, she could escape and escape. Naruto interjected frostily. "No, there is no escape for her. She might not know this, but part of her has already submitted herself to me." Confusion marred Alma's beautiful features. "I do not understand, my lord. Do you know that the door to her cell was unlocked all this time?" That alarmed Alma. What? If she wanted, she could have opened the door and walked out of there. He shrugged. "I purposely asked the guard to keep the door unlocked. Not once did she try to push open the door. It is as if she knows there is no way out. So she doesn't even bother to try." Alma was lost for words. It wasn't a secret that her master was an expert in psychological warfare. A war should be won before the horn was blown. That had always been a philosophy her master preached. To think that her master had already broken the girl to this extent, it was no wonder the First Order had prospered under his leadership for so many years. "I have much to learn from you, my lord." Naruto chuckled. "Now go and make Rey mine." Alma stood up, her posture rigid as she saluted her master. "I will not fail you, my lord." A conniving smirk crept up Naruto's lips. "I'm sure you won't. Make me proud." When Alma entered Rey's cell, the Rudian Twi'lek resisted her urge to gag from the rotten stench permeating the hellhole. She surveyed the motionless form of Rey lying prone on the cold concrete with piqued interest. Disheveled hair, shivering frame, and a defeated look, Rey was on the verge on losing her sanity. Her willpower gave her the courage to cling on to the hope that the resistance might one day come to her rescue. Preposterous. Alma narrowed her eyes. "Get up. I know you're not asleep." Rey didn't budge. "You will not disobey me. Get up." Rey still refused to budge. She didn't even acknowledge Alma's existence. Alma clicked her tongue, irritated by Rey's rebellious attitude. A foolish fighter, even till the bitter end. Alma seized the back of Rey's neck and yanked her violently up with an arm, showcasing her incredible strength. "Lord Naruto may have patience for your insolence, but I don't. From today onwards, I will be supervising your daily routine. Your meals and your trainings will be prepped by me. You will listen to my command. When I said jump, you jolly well jump. When I said sit, you don't ask where. You just do it. Am I clear?" Rey glared heatedly at Alma, but said nothing else. Without hesitation, Alma threw Rey across the cell, her body hit the wall like a ragdoll. But Alma wasn't done yet. She needed to show the girl that she meant business. Alma pressed her curvaceous body against Rey's back, her hand snaked around the poor girl's neck and she applied pressure. The rear strangulation got Rey choking helplessly for air. Now that Alma had gotten Rey's attention, it was time to teach the girl a thing or two about her new life in the First Order. "Let this be a lesson. I don't need the Force to make you a hot mess. Do not make me repeat myself, Rey. Do I make myself clear?" "Why, yes." Satisfied, Alma loosened her hold. Rey sank into her knees, coughing in hysteria and trying to regain her bearing. "My name is Alma Rar. Depend on your behavior. I can be your teacher or I can be your worst nightmare. You decide how you wanted to be treated." Rey was no sympathy in Alma's stone-cold eyes. Rey was weak and vulnerable, just like she was when she was suffering in the slums. It was a bad habit of Alma's to peek into people's mind, but it gave her some insight about Rey's upbringing. Abandoned by her parents and stranded in a wasteland, Rey lived a horrid life. With great fortune, Alma managed to escape the gallows and so could Rey. Us needed to open the girl's eyes and show the pitiful girl the right path. The path of the dark side of the Force. As for Rey, she didn't understand any part of her predicament. There was no doubt Had Alma was a knight within the arsenal of the First Order, evident by her Herculean might, but she had barged in and proclaimed to be Rey's master. This unexpected turn of events bewildered Rey. He was prepared to be executed by one of the First Order's goons. She was not prepared to be trained by a Sith. "I am not a Sith. Rei tilted her head weakly to face Alma. It may be true that Lord Naruto is a Dark Lord of the Sith, but he does not practice any of the traditions and religious codes of the Order. The answer to Rei's confusion was met with more confusions. Alma pinched her nose and gestured at Rei. Stand up. I'll escort you to your new quarters. Go take a shower and clean yourself up. After you're done, we'll have dinner and you can ask me anything you want. Why? Alma cocked her brow. Why what? Why? Her voice was raspy and barely audible, a sign of severe dehydration. That irked Alma. If Rei had submitted sooner, she wouldn't need to subject herself to his pointless torment. Why are you doing this? All this dilly-dally was driving Alma to the edge. I'll answer your question when you're all washed up. Now stand up and move your butt, rat. How long it been since Rei had the luxury to enjoy a hot shower. The water didn't just wash away the dirt and grease blemished on her, but her fatigue as well. Guilt gripped her heart when she realized that she was enjoying the water on her skin, without a care in the world, while her friends could be risking their lives somewhere in the galaxy. Hastily, she stepped out of her shower and wiped the fog off the mirror to examine herself. How pathetic, she thought. She was weak, powerless, and had no clue whatsoever about her situation. What was her place in all this? Why did the Resistance send her into the bowel of this repugnant realm, knowing full well she wasn't ready to take on the depraved Empire? Of all people, why did the Force choose her? The Resistance was desperate to secure some semblance of hope, I guess. Even if that means securing it through you. Alma sat at the chic table, nonchalantly skimming through her orange book. The quarter was opulent, designed and decorated excessively like an art. However, there was no door to the bathroom, so there was no obstacle blocking Alma's view of Rei's lithe and very naked body. Rei scrambled to cover her modesty with her towel, her cheeks were flushed a bright red. What are you doing? Alma looked visibly vexed, but calmed herself after drinking her tea. Do not make a fool out of yourself, Rei. I do not swing that way. My heart belongs only to Lord Naruto. You may have beauty, but that's just that, aesthetic. Rei shot an incredulous look at Alma. There is something called privacy. Alma snorted. You do not have one. If I so desire, I can make you give me a lap dance in your birthday suit. Rei growled. Like hell I would. Care to test me? Rei looked away, stifling her urge to cry. The Force had shown her how it could easily be manipulated to torture people and make their lives miserable. Sure, the Force could be a tool for good, but in the hands of evil, it was beyond terrifying. As of now, she would be damned to let the Twi'lek see her moment of weakness. Now hurry up and wear your clothes. The food is getting cold and I hate to eat cold steak. It didn't take long for Rei to get dressed. Her wardrobe was filled with black clothes, black tunic, black pants, black lingerie. Rei just took what she could grab, put it on, and sauntered her way to the table. Now that you don't smell like a rancor's carcass, I believe we can eat. Alma picked up her fork and knife, cut her beef with utmost etiquette, and took a bite. Her appetite went away when she saw Rei dove down into her food like a barbarian, chewing loudly in awe and glee. Have you never tasted beef before? Rei blinked dumbly at Alma. Pieces of food were dangling between her lips. Beef. What's that? Alma rolled her eyes. T.S. girl was really a frog in a well who had no perception about the world. After inhaling her food, Rei didn't even have the decency to look sheepish. She wiped her mouth clean with her napkin and cut straight to the chase. Who is Naruto? The careless address of Alma's master had struck a raw nerve. She glanced up dangerously at Rei. The intensity of her death glare made the girl averted her gaze. You will address him as Lord Naruto. Your blatant disregard for formality can be overlooked, but you will give Lord Naruto the respect he deserves. And what respect does he deserve? Rei fought back. He is a mass murderer. He pillaged and destroyed. Million lives were lost because of him. Lord Naruto brought stability, order, and structure to the galaxy. Alma was seething. If it wasn't for him, many more would die. That's a load of worka shit. Alma slammed her palm on her table and jolted up from her seat. You incorrigible girl, you know nothing about the things Lord Naruto has done. Do you even know the planet Ryloth? Don't bother answering, because I know you don't. It is the home world of my kind. For centuries, my planet is overrun by slavery and death. Children had to resort to manual labor or escort services to live by each day. You claim that the Jedi are all righteous and good, but that is a lie and you know it. The fire and fury in Alma's eyes frightened Rey. The Jedi knew about our suffering, yet they did nothing to help us. All they ever did was recruiting children to fight their wars for them. My people were either exploited by the Hutts or sent to die in battlefields. The Jedi even brought their war on my planet. When the war was over, the Jedi went home, leaving my planet to rot. Rey stood up and met with the hate-filled eyes of Alma. And you think what Naruto did was better? Quote, he brought the First Order in. Killed the Hutts that enslaved our kind. Brought peace to us. No, he did more than just that. He rebuilt our economy. Gave us technology to educate our people. The sheer passion in Alma's tale had shaken Rey's resolve. If the resistance succeed in overthrowing the First Order, Ryloth would most likely return to what it was before. A godforsaken world. A world without hopes and dreams. From my point of view, the resistance are evil. No, this couldn't be it. The seed of doubt, infested in Rey's heart, was blossoming dangerous in her. Was it even remotely possible that the First Order was a force for good? Could the resistance be the source of evil all this time? Was she siding the bad guys and being played like a fool? Remember well, Rey, good and evil, they are relative concepts. Think about that. No. Rey shook her head and grunted. This was Naruto's mind game. She would not fall for such parlor tricks. If the Jedi was the good guy, then why did Luke Skywalker abandon the resistance? He knew very well the resistance was no match for the First Order. Our destroyers can blot out the sun. He could change the tide of the war. So why did he leave? Alma's brow furrowed. Let me tell you why. It is because Luke Skywalker is a coward. At the heat of the moment, he turned his back on the people he swore to protect. A Jedi scum who only talks the talk, but never walk the walk. They're hypocrites. You're wrong. Rey fumed, but the discourse had shaken her faith. Recollecting her breaths, a mask of indifference was plastered on Alma's face. We are done here. Finish your dinner and go to bed. We will commence training at dawn. Alma stormed out of Rey's chamber, leaving the girl to her own device. Staring at her trembling hands, Rey grimaced. One good deed did not absolve Naruto from his war crimes. The Starkiller base was a weapon of mass destruction that had brought flames and brimstones upon billions of innocent lives. There was no way Rey would be part of that abomination's army. She would grudgingly learn the way of the Force from Alma, gather all of the secrets of the First Order, and find a way back to the Resistance and confront Master Skywalker. She was their last hope. Rey's determination had never been stronger. The sound of river had a hypnotic charm over Rey. Perhaps it was the fragrant leaves and the kiss of chill from the autumn breeze that brushed across her skin that gave her the sense of harmony. The forest was like an orchestra to Rey, playing its soporific symphony to enchant her to its beauty. She surveyed the great oaks, flabbergasted by the vitality of it. Do you like this place? The sinister cheerful voice caught Rey off guard and she instinctively straightened her shoulders. She spun around and found the Lord of the First Order admiring the vast meadow, his hands behind his back as he was enveloped by the wind. It was peaceful and bizarre. Is this a dream? Rey probed. Naruto turned to her, a hint of melancholy and sorrow flashed across his eyes. Here, let me show you something. Follow me. It wasn't a suggestion, for her body acted on its own. They hiked through the forest and climbed up a hill, but neither one of them spoke. If looks could kill, Rey would have burned 2 holes right through Naruto's back. She was taken aback when they reached their destination. The bustling city at the hillside was embraced by a virescent riot of green and sunglow. This used to be my home. Naruto smiled. Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. Beautiful, isn't it? The natives could use the Force to do wonders. Well, that is until the Galactic Empire came. In a blink of an eye, the sky was painted blood red and the city was ravaged by flames and black smoke. The ominous Imperial Star Destroyer that led the siege hovered above the squalor. They were too many. I was but one man. Naruto sighed. I slaughtered as many as I could to save my people. But when the fire was extinguished and the screaming stopped, all that was left was ruins. The Emperor saw a great hatred in me. Taught me the way of the Force. Gave me more power. It was a big mistake for his part. He thought he could make me his weapon. A hollow guffaw escaped his lips as he turned to Rey. I exist to protect my people. The First Order is my family now. That was what I was bestowed upon. My new purpose, if I may. And every action I take, no matter how vile and cruel, I did it for the greater good of my people. Rey steeled her gaze. Genocide is never the answer. Naruto's face was unreadable. Darth Vader was only one. There were many Jedi before him. Have you ever wondered how did they fall so easily? A republic steeped in history was wiped out overnight. Eradicated by one Sith Lord and his apprentice. Laughable and pitiful, really. You will not dishonor the Jedi. I won't allow it, she growled. The Jedi are extremists, just like the Sith. Either side is willing to see the perspective of their counterparts. Both of them believe in their ways and formulated logics to justify them. The Jedi believe that there is no emotion, but we, sentient beings, are born with emotions. It is what that define us. To rid us of it is to remove our soul. The Sith believe in indulgence, but our emotions may cloud our judgment. So, what is right? Who is wrong? Although Rey appeared to be unaroused by curiosity, but doubt had festered inside her. Do not mistake me for a Sith. I do not believe in the rule of two. The rule of two. Rey cocked a brow. It is a doctrine created by a scared fossil who was fearful that a band of Dark Lords would bring about an inevitable civil war. When Darth Sidious took charge, he didn't want to be annihilated by his apprentice. So he conceived the notion of the rule of one, where he will reign for eternity. So you see, rules are meant to be broken for the convenience of the strongest. If you're not a Sith, why call yourself the Dark Lord of the Sith? Isn't that contradicting to your beliefs? Rey probed. I am not a Jedi. The other side of the coin is the Sith. I do not believe in their ways too, but I practice the dark side far more than the light. It was then Rey noticed Naruto's eyes illuminated an eerie red under the shadows. I was once a champion of the light, a messiah to my world, but I have lost too much. The dark side is all I have left. My passion, anger, and hatred are what kept me going for all these years. Rey had enough of this. She wasn't going to sympathize with a murderer like Naruto. Sure, he had a tragic past. But it didn't justify planetary devastation. The Galactic Senate, Hosnian Prime, was vanquished by the monstrous Starkiller base, an act of pure evil. Billions of lives were lost. Rey could never forgive Naruto for such atrocity. You can't forgive me. I get it. Naruto ambled towards Rey, caressing her soft cheek with his callous fingers. I don't expect you to forgive me. You are too kind-hearted to do that. Stay away from me, she hissed. The destruction of Hosnian Prime is necessary. With a snap of his fingers, Naruto reshaped the dreamland into a war zone. They stood beside a ragged pile of rubble where ashes fell like snow and the dead lithered all over the crumbled avenues. In Rey's peripheral, she spotted a boy leaning against a wall. At was riddled with bullets and crying for his parents. Her heart ached as the boy let out a gut-wrenching wail. This is one of the many worlds that was ravaged by war, pledged and instigated by the Galactic Senate. While the upper echelon of the society lives in wealth and glamour, these people suffer in hell. What does this has to do with what you did? You were a clever girl, you should know why that is so. Naruto grinned. Hosnian Prime is the very symbol of corruption. How do you think they get their fortune from? War. War generates profits. The Galactic Senate has always been Encore. Aging war because they manufacture apocalyptic weapons. They will then sell it to warring worlds for profits. Now tell me, Rey, who is the devil in this story? The people who wanted war? Or the man who stopped the wars? Liar. She spat indignantly. Naruto ruffled her hair. Search the Force, like you Jedi used to say. You will know I'm telling the truth. Rey looked away. Tell me the truth, Rey. The Resistance. The First Order. You have no interest in both of them, don't you? I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto grinned. What do you truly want? Do you really want to be a Jedi? To wield a lightsaber and swing it around in the battlefield? Or do you want to know more about your parents? Shock struck Rey to her core. Damn it all. Naruto was able to discern her true feeling. Something which she had desperately tried to conceal. She couldn't possibly think of herself right now because it is selfish for you to do so. Naruto snorted. And you're willing to abide to the agendas of the resistance. Aren't their goals selfish too? You were merely General Organa's pawn. A chess piece that she flings around when she wants. How many men have she sacrificed for her pointless dream? I bet she sleeps comfortably at night too. Shut up. Get out of my head. Rei's eyes hardened into a lethal stare. There is nothing wrong in being selfish. If you want to know more about your parents, you won't get that answer from the resistance. Believe it, your friends don't care about what you want. Tell me, with a straight face, do you think your friends will embark on an adventure with you to find the truth for you? No, they will reprimand you for being foolish. And why is that? Denying you your dreams so that they can accomplish theirs. Who's the selfish one here? Tell me, Rei. Hot tears streamed down Rei's cheeks. She didn't have an answer for that. No. She did, but she wasn't going to give Naruto the satisfaction to see her conceding to his twisted mind games. Say it with me. Naruto pushed a lock of chestnut hair behind Rei's ear with tender care. She glanced up and saw softness, compassion, and promise of sweetness to come in his eyes. Say it. The first order is your only hope. No. Say it, Rei. No. Say it. No. Rei jolted up from her bed, her pants labored as she scanned her room frantically. Alma stood at the doorway, unamused by Rei's abrupt and rather violent outburst from her sleep. Nightmare. Registering her reality, Rei closed her eyes, dropped her face into her pillow, and groaned into it. Will you stop coming into my room unannounced? It's getting creepy. I would not be here if you have not overslept for 5 minutes. Now go wash up and get dressed. I will bring you to our cafeteria for breakfast and then we will start your training immediately. Plopping down to a nearby chair, Alma flipped to the bookmark wedged within the pages of her orange book, giggling uncharacteristically to herself while she was at it. Rei glowered at Alma, who had lost herself into the content of her book. What's so great about it anyway? It's a bestseller. Alma answered Rei's thoughts. I have a few copies. Do you want to read it? Stop trying to read my mind. Morning routine for Rei flew through faster than she could remember. When she was done, Alma escorted her through a long corridor, which led them to a spacious hall. Wow, there's like 1,000 stormtroopers in here. 1,000 stormtroopers not shooting a hail of plasma bolts at her, now that's refreshing for a change. Yes, Alma's attention was still on her book. The Knights of the First Order don't often eat their breakfast in the cafeteria. So why are we not eating somewhere else? It's because I am a knight and you are not. I need to properly integrate you into our culture. You will eat your breakfast here with these people. They will be under your command in the future. You need to know them at a personal level to garner their respect. At that, Rei stiffened. Command the stormtroopers. Her. If Alma thought Rei had already joined the dark side, then she was sorely mistaken. Rei had faith in herself to resist the enticement. No matter how persuasive they were, Rei knew that she was a Jedi down to her bones. She would never betray Master Skywalker, or would she? Does. Naruto. Alma shot Rei a death glare and the girl hastily corrected herself. Lord Naruto. Rei tasted her words with stifled disdain. Does he eat with the stormtroopers? Yes, he believes it is the right thing to do. Alma shut her book, stashed it behind her pants pocket, and turned to Rei. He will be here any minute now. I want you to show him some proper courtesy. You will stand and greet him. If I caught you exhibiting even a small trace of impoliteness towards Lord Naruto, I will have you mop this entire cafeteria for the next 4 days. Do you understand me? Rei swallowed hard. Why yes. Speaking of the devil, Naruto strolled into the cafeteria, getting everybody's attention. Please ignore me and enjoy your food, will ya? Some of the stormtroopers broke into laughter before saluting their commander-in-chief. It was at that moment that Rei wished she was invisible. But all hopes were tarnished when Naruto made a beeline towards her. Intriguingly, Rei caught a glimpse of Alma snaring at Naruto's companion. Unlike Alma, this Lethan Twi'lek wore skimpy armor, which was pretty much a bikini that left little to the imagination. Darth Talon was everything wild and exotic, with an immaculate beauty that she had inherited from her Twi'lek heritage and the inconceivable power she had obtained from her lord's tutelage. She was the complete package and more. Raised to be a destruction. Incarnate and trained to be Naruto's lieutenant. Darth Talon was loyal to a fault. She, too, was glaring at Alma. Good morning, Rei. Naruto grinned. Did you have a good dream last night? Rei had to suppress every fiber of her being to lash at Naruto, but managed a weak smile for him. I didn't have any dream last night. Thank you for your concern. Naruto chuckled and turned to Alma. I see that you have taught her how to be polite. Good job. Alma bowed. Of course, my lord. I'll leave you two to do your thing. I have much to discuss with Darth Talon about our upcoming assault on the Resistance's base. Rei's eyes widened in horror. Assault. Naruto merely winked at her before he walked away. Darth Talon exuded a haughty air, striding past Alma and purposely bumped into her shoulder. Oops. Alma was infuriated, but did nothing. One of these days, Rei didn't pay much attention to Darth Talon and Alma's exchange. Her mind was warped up by the fact that the First Order was about to attack the Resistance. Finn, Poe, General Organa. They wouldn't even know what was coming. Forget about your friends. Alma turned to Rei. The sourness of her face didn't go unnoticed. You got much dire things to worry about. Now go help me grab some food. I'm angry and hungry. You wouldn't like it when I'm angry and hungry. After breakfast, Alma escorted Rei to a courtyard. A rather tall courtyard that had glass for ceilings, allowing Rei to take in the starry speckles adorning the black curtain draped over the sky. Somewhere out there, her friends were plotting to rescue her, she was sure of it. She diverted her glance to Alma, who was dragging a beach chair with her. When is the First Order going to attack the Resistance? Alma scowled. That does not concern you. My friends are in danger. Do not make me repeat myself, Rei. The Twi'lek sat down on her beach chair with her legs outstretched and took out her orange book. Forget your friends. Lord Naruto is grooming you to be a knight of the First Order. It's a great honor. Yeah, being the First Order's disposable condom. Yeah, real fun. Alma didn't appreciate Rei's snarky and sarcastic tone, but she didn't react much to it. You know, Lord Naruto could do much worse if he wants to. Like force you to give up on everything you know about the Resistance. Use those information to destroy the Resistance once and for all. He could do all that, but he didn't. Let that sink in. Yeah. Now let's start our training. Training. Rei scowled. She wasn't in the mood for training, but it was key for her to learn more about the Force. Here, see the glass ceiling above you. Rei sighed. Yeah, what about it? You want me to go touch it or something? Oh, seems like you're good at reading minds now. At that, Rei gawked at Alma. What? You can't be serious. Dead serious. Rei scratched the back of her head, her eyes darting right and left in search for a ladder. Where can I find a ladder? Alma rolled her eyes and slapped her forehead with her book. No, dummy, I want you to jump and touch the glass ceiling. Oh, she raised a finger, as if solving a puzzle. Wait, how do I do that? Use the Force. Duh, why? Oh, you should at least teach me how to reach out to the Force. Alma groaned. When Lord Naruto first taught me how to do that, he tossed me off a cliff. It took me 10 minutes to jump back up. Rei fidgeted with her fingers. You're not going to toss me off a cliff, right? Keep whining and I might just do just that. Now quit bitching and start jumping. Disclaimer. I don't own Star Wars or Naruto. For the next 2 hours, Rei barely managed to jump a meter above the ground before gravity took over and she pummeled back to the ground. All her insouciant teacher ever did was giggling her self silly to her book, and it was starting to get on her nerves. Can't you offer me some pointers to get me up there? I've been doing this for 2 hours. Alma rolled her eyes and flipped her book shut. How hard can it be for you to make the jump, you imbecile? Well, I'm sorry that I wasn't born in tune to the Force like you are. Rei shot back. Don't you dare. Alma raised a finger. Now close your eyes. Why? Rei gnashed her teeth. So you can throw your stupid book at me. Insult my book again and I'll cut you open from head to toe and wear your worthless skin-like jacket. The threat didn't scare Rei, but it did gross her out. Now do it. Letting out a seething grunt, Rei complied. She shut her eyes impatiently and exclaimed. Now what? Steady your breathing. Alma inster. UCTED as she crossed her arms under her ample bosom and softened her gaze. Calm yourself. Can you feel the blood in your veins? Can you hear your heartbeat? Push out all the noises in your surrounding. And reach out to the energy that connects everything. It is inside you too. Do you feel it? Rey's face contorted into one of deep concentration, channeling all of her entire being to embrace the Force. At first, she felt nothing. But as her rage subsided and her senses heightened drastically, she could feel everything. It was overwhelming at first to be bombarded with colorful sensations. She also discerned a pool of darkness. Like a black hole, it threatens to consume her. The Force is life and death itself. It is neither light nor dark. The Force is the balance. When there is light, so must there be shadows. To empower yourself with the Force and use its strength to its fullest potential, you must embrace the light and the dark. One cannot exist with the other. To love is to hate. To feel joy is to feel despair. Do you feel it now? Sweat was forming tremendously on Rey's face as she struggled to cope with the Force blasting itself at her soul. It was as if she was being torn asunder and rejuvenated anew. Her skin was burning yet her blood was freezing. Everything inside her was going haywire. I feel it, but it's painful. I can't. You can. Alma's voice was deep and somber. You must find the balance. Embrace the light. Give in to the dark. The norm of the dark side being all things evil was preventing Rey from finding balance in her. I won't give in to the dark. Foolish girl, Alma chided. You're on the path of no return. Now that you have experienced both the light and the dark, you can't just disconnect yourself from the Force. It's showing you the path. Don't reject it. Saying Alma was petrified was an understatement. As Rey struggled to contain her unfathomable and uncontrollable power, the Star Destroyer they were in was trembling. Spider web cracks were spreading across the steel walls, the furniture were dissolving into dust, and a whirlwind of debris was conjured. At the epicenter of the mayhem, Rey was levitating in the air. Enveloped by untamed power like a goddess of destruction. Snap out of it, Rey. Alma bellowed. You're letting the Force taking control over you. The only living being Alma knew who had limitless affinity to the Force was her lord. Rey had taken it to the next level. Upon her awakening of the Force, she brought devastation and chaos, something a Jedi wouldn't be able to achieve. Practitioner of the light shouldn't be destructive in nature, only a Sith would, which meant the dark side of the Force was inconceivably strong in Rey. Was that the reason why Lord Naruto was so intrigued by Rey's existence? He saw what the others didn't. As if on cue, the blast door opened, revealing an exasperated Darth Talon glowering at Alma. What have you done? Stay out of this, Alma barked. Rey is my apprentice. I have things under control. Oh yeah, you're clearly doing a good job keeping things under control. Now get out of my way. Thrusting her hand at Rey, Darth Talon unleashed raw power. An electrifying shockwave erupted from her frame as she siphoned Rey's unstable energy. Her eyes radiated a bright crimson as she struggled to cut off Rey's connection with the Force. What are you doing? Alma growled. Stop. Silence. Darth Talon seethed behind clenched her jaw. You have failed your apprentice. Lord Naruto has sent me to stop this from exacerbating any further. Alma gasped in horror. No, it couldn't be. If what Darth Talon said was true, then not only had she failed Rey, but she had brought shame to herself. Lord Naruto sent you. To make matters worse, Kylo Ren had stormed into the chamber and wordlessly joined Darth Talon in subduing Rey's outbreak. His mechanical voice underneath his mask was laced with venom and annoyance. Make yourself useful, for once, and help us stop her from blowing up the ship, Alma. Alma shook her head to regain her bearing and reached out with both hands at Rey. Mustering all of her fortitude and strength, Alma tried to establish a connection with Rey's mind, but it was no use. Rey had unconsciously erected an impenetrable force field around her, a powerful defense mechanism that proved to be too strong for the three of them to do anything about it. What the fuck did you do, Alma? How the hell did she become like this? Darth Talon gritted her teeth. They were being pushed back by Rey, who wasn't even voluntarily doing any of this. Pushing back against Rey's burst of power was like trying to push against a mountain. It was simply impossible. Kylo Ren persisted and threw in more effort into stopping Rey's madness. But his exhaustion was starting to show through his labored breaths. I always knew she was strong, but not this strong. Enough. The rich and dark voice of Naruto ended their plight. With just a word, Naruto had halted Rei's relentless surge of power. If Naruto didn't step in to stop the commotion from escalating further, the Star Destroyer might split into half and doom them all. Gracefully, Naruto leapt into the air and caught Rei's falling body, with one hand behind her back and the other underneath her knees. Panic and consternation overwhelmed Alma when Naruto spun around, an unconscious Rei in his arms as he ambled towards her like a hawk. Alma fell into her knees, her lips quavering as she floundered for words to exonerate herself from this clusterfuck. Why didn't you stop her when she was about to go berserk? Naruto narrowed his eyes. I thought she was strong enough. She was untrained. She knew not about what the Force is. You shouldn't have let her tap into the dark side of the Force so soon. No matter the cause, she wasn't ready for it. Naruto sighed. And I thought you were ready to raise an apprentice. I was wrong. No, Alma pled. Let me make this right. Rei is my responsibility. Please give me a second chance, my lord. Kylo Ren took this opportunity to add his 2 cents. Master, I believe it is only right that I train Rei myself. Alma stared daggers at Kylo Ren. No, Lord Naruto entrusted this duty to me. Not you. And look at what you have accomplished. Kylo Ren relished in Alma's disgrace as he diverted his attention to the wreckage that was the chamber. It was akin to him spraying salt on Alma's wound. It felt great. Master, allow me to take over Alma's responsibilities. She is not ready for an apprentice. Much to Alma's chagrin and terror, Naruto nodded to Kylo Ren. You're right. It seems only fair that I have you to train. No, my lord, please, let me. Naruto paused and stared at Alma, who flinched when their eyes met. His gaze was cold and domineering, as if piercing right through her soul. I will give you one more chance to do this right. If you fail again, then Kylo Ren will take over your duties and you will be dismissed. Are we clear on this? Why yes, my lord. Thank you for your graciousness. Handing the unconscious form of Rei to Alma, Naruto strode past the Twi'lek without sparing her another glance. Kylo Ren and Darth Talon merely smirked triumphantly at Alma before they marched out of the chamber. The excruciating feeling of being hit in the head by a sledgehammer didn't bode well with Rei. But when she woke up from her bed, all she felt was a nauseating migraine that was throbbing in her skull. It was like her brain was bashing against her skull, causing her sight to be jarred and her ear ringing. Moaning in agony, she tried to recall. What happened? Darkness. She couldn't remember anything but darkness. You're awake. The soft voice of Alma broke Rei out of her trance. Are you feeling better now? Rei groggily sat up, nursing her temples while she was at it. She was surprised to see Alma sitting on the edge of her bed, staring at her with an inscrutable expression. The dimmed glow illuminated from her table lamp allowed Rei to inspect Alma's mascara and her sunglow eyes. What happened? You black out. Went into a frenzy mode. It was best not to let Rei know the details of what had transpired for both of their sakes. How are you feeling now? Feels like someone took my quarterstaff and repeatedly hit me in the head. Drink this. It'll help cure the headache. Alma handed Rei a glass of sparkling water. Without questioning if the drink was laced with poison, Rei drank it in one gulp. What did you see? Rei wiped her dried lips and stared wide-eyed at Alma. What? Quote, your outburst is probably caused by a vision you saw through the Force. Alma narrowed her eyes. The Force taps into our inner desire. It makes us see things that may be beyond our understanding. So, what did you see? Everything was muddy to Rei, but that's all she could remember. Darkness. Nothing more. Rei looked thoughtful, trying to squeeze out any memory that would be relevant to her dilemma. And then she saw it. A man in a mask. Rei shook her head. A butcher. He killed so many people. He is a Jedi. No, a Dark Lord of the Sith. I don't understand. Rei grasped the side of her head to nurse the pain, but she was slowly remembering it. He has so much power. The Force is under his command. But he left the war and gave up everything to marry a woman. She's beautiful. Putting two and two together, Alma concluded that Rei had a vision of Darth Vader, but there was something amiss. Darth Vader didn't leave the Galactic War. He was slain by his son. It was confounding for Alma. Did Rey see someone else instead? Rey cradled the cup in her hands and timidly glanced up. So, when will I resume my training? Alma shot a quizzical look at her apprentice. But a disapproving scowl soon plastered on her beautiful features. You will start from the basic of all basics. You will not use the Force until I deem you ready. What? Why? You're not ready, Alma growled. That is not up to discussion. I need to know everything I can about the Force. You will teach me. In a fit of rage, Alma pounced on a startled Rey, pinning both of her hands above her head and forcing herself atop her. Don't you question me, girl, and don't you dare make demands from me. I am your master. You will listen to me and only me. Do I make myself clear? Rey gritted her teeth and looked away. Despite the fact that she was living in a nightmare, she sincerely wanted to befriend Alma and obtain some semblance of kinship with someone. But Alma's outburst had woken her up crudely to reality. Alma wasn't going to be her friend. Rey knew she was a prisoner from the get-go, and if she didn't comply with Alma's order, she would be dead meat, or worse. Yes, master, she conceded. A lone tear cascaded down the side of her face as she stifled her sob. She had never felt so vulnerable in her life. Not even Kylo Ren could make her feel this way. Regaining her senses, Alma heaved out a heavy sigh. I'm sorry. I don't. No, it's fine. You are my master. I am your prisoner. That is all there is to it, isn't it? What do you want me to do now? Strip naked and give you a lap dance? Is that it, master? Being an apprentice and having an apprentice were two different things. Alma learned it the hard way and paid the price. Diving down into memory lane, Alma recalled how kind and passionate her master was to her when she was merely his apprentice. He fed her curiosity with knowledge, healed her wounds when she overexerted herself, and even went on holiday trips with her to take a break from the harsh and arduous training she endured. She had to be the master her master was to her. No, you are not my prisoner, Rey. You are my apprentice, and from today onwards, whether you like it or not, we are going to be family. I am a Jedi, Rey spat. That will never happen. That was not true. The terrific power that Rey had exuded when she went into a ferocious state was nothing like a Jedi. Unbeknownst to Rey, the dark side of the Force was without a doubt strong in her. Alma flicked her finger at Rey's forehead, earning her a high-pitched yelp from the girl. Oh why did you do that for? Go wash up and eat your dinner after you're done. We will start with your physical training tomorrow morning. After that, I'll teach you some fundamentals with the lightsaber. And if you overslept this time, I'll make you run around the entire Star Destroyer. And trust me, you do not want to know how big the Star Destroyer is. Obsession was not the word Kylo Ren would describe the feeling he shared for Rey, but it was close enough. Ever since Rey beat him in a stroke of luck, Kylo Ren wanted to know more about the rebellious and upbeat girl. She came into his life like a wrecking ball, creating so much disturbance in the Force, yet knew not that her presence had always made it exhilarating for him. Kylo Ren understood why his master was fascinated by Rey. Who wouldn't? When Rey was locked into solitary confinement, Kylo Ren had been pacing back and forth outside her cell, debating incessantly to himself if he should visit the girl or not. He almost did it when she let out a pitiful scream in penitentiary, but something was holding him back and he resisted the temptation. As much as he wanted to play the knight in the shining armor, he chose to be patient. The final straw was drawn when Alma was appointed to be Rey's master. That incurred some strange mixed feeling for him and hurt something awful inside his noggin. Why was that wench Alma appointed Rey's master and not him? It was no secret that all of his master's apprentices had been fighting amongst themselves to curry favor. The arrogant and sadistic tramp, Darth Talon, was the closest to his master, but he was the most suitable candidate to guide Rey. He was supposed to make Rey his. Upon realization, Kylo Ren gasped. What am I thinking? He looked himself into the mirror and growled. There was no denying it. He wanted to possess Rey, both physical and mentally. He wanted to know how soft her skin felt like, how exciting it would be to have her squirming underneath him, and how great it would feel to ravage her. And Alma was standing in his goddamn way. Thankfully, he had been secretly watching Alma and Rey training in the chamber. When Rey was discovering the Force, he knew it was his time to strike. And strike he did. A little mind trick was all he needed to twist Rey's perception of the Force. Alma didn't even know what hit her. Serve her right. She shouldn't have taken what's mine. Kylo Ren balled his fists in anger. It won't be long before I have Rey to myself. We'll see. We'll see. With that, Kylo Ren snickered deviously to himself. The crashing noise of the waterfall and the birds chirping a melody caught Rey by surprise. She was in the forest again. It was treacherously peaceful, something that made her anxious. The stench of damp leaves, the virescent mosaic, and the humid air made Rey's dream a fantasy. You're here, again. Rey spun around and found Naruto skipping stones across the calm river surface. Why am I here? Rey queried, her brows furrowed. Why are you here? Why don't you ask yourself? This is your dream after all. Naruto chuckled lightheartedly. And what's puzzling is that you always draw me into your dreams. Liar! Rey exclaimed. Wrestling himself to a standing position, Naruto limbered up and glanced up to face the sun with a bright smile on his face. You have a dangerous ability to forge force bond with people, Rey. Only few are capable of leveraging on a simple but complicated technique such as force bond to overcome impossible odds. The Jedi were never able to fully utilize such power because force bond requires one to open themselves and their passion to others. Rey narrowed her eyes gingerly. Are you implying that I am using a power from the dark side? Naruto clicked his tongue and shook his head. Still the stubborn girl. The Force is not divided by the light or the dark. Like I said before, good and evil are relative concepts, just like the notion of the light and the dark. Yin and yang. One cannot coexist without the other. The Jedi represent the yin. The Sith symbolizes the yang. Both of them refuse to merge their paths together and hence it leads to their downfall. Do you know the Jedi and the Sith are responsible for trillions of deaths when they wage war amongst each other? Say that to the orphans and widows of the men you killed. Stroking his stubble, Naruto scoffed. So you think I'm some murderous psychopath? Yes, she spat. Fire of determination was flaring in her eyes. I killed the people that need killing. That's all there is to it. Naruto sauntered towards Rey, his smothering eyes were radiating fierce power. His aura could even cripple her, but Rey was headstrong. She wasn't going to back down and cower. I live my life knowing one day someone is going to end it. I don't doubt myself for what I did because what I did is for the greater good. If I have to die for it, then so be it. Hell, I welcome it. Believe it. That's straight up Vorka shit right there. Rey retorted. Killing is not the right way. When Naruto stood face to face with Rey, it was then she realized how tall he was. Is that it? You want to play the moral high ground here? Then tell me, my dear Princess Goody Two-Shoe, how does the Resistance intends to do if they, for some miraculous reason, manage to beat us? Did the why brief you in about their grandiose plan of, he did an air quote gesture with his fingers, restoring the peace and harmony of the galaxy. Rey averted her gaze. I am the one who is doing all the work here. I disbanded the Galactic Senate. I stopped their wars. I made warring races form peace treaties. I gave countless people jobs. I put food on their families' table. I gave order, stab, ility and structure to the world I conquer. The First Order has done more good than the Resistance could ever hope to achieve. Name me one accolade that the Resistance did that doesn't involve violence, death, and war. Tell me. The truth hurt. Rey couldn't come up with any achievement the Resistance ever had besides taking down 1 or 2 star destroyers from the First Order. They were self-proclaimed peace fighters. Yet Rey wasn't really sure what they were fighting for. To remove the First Order from the galaxy. How would they fill up the vacuum of power that the First Order occupied? I'll tell you what will happen if the First Order collapses. Naruto scowled. Anarchy. Total and utter chaos across star systems. Billions of lives would be wiped out in civil wars. Do you have any idea how many planets we conquered were previously devastated by wars? Yes, wars. They were fighting amongst themselves long before we came in. If we're gone, who is going to stop them from annihilating themselves? The Resistance. Do they even have the manpower or resources to do that? Rey hated to admit it, but she didn't have an answer for that. The consequences would be disastrous if such a vacuum of power occurred. It wasn't very much a controversy that the Resistance's finance and funding were depleted. And in the middle of it, you, Rey, will be responsible for it. The forest was abruptly scorched by inferno, mortifying Rey in the process. She saw women and children scrambling from tribal warriors. They were all massacred with extreme prejudice, much to her horror. Their blood will be on your hands. Stop. Rey shook her head and shut her eyes. This is just a dream. An illusion. I won't fall for that. Naruto sighed and snapped his fingers, transporting them to a beach. Rey's eyelids fluttered close and open as she breathed in the aroma of the sea. The sun across the horizon enveloped her in warmth, allowing her anger and panic to dissolve away. You don't want to be part of this. I understand. Naruto's voice softened, which surprised Rey. The big bad commander-in-chief of the First Order had always portrayed himself as a symbol of authority, strength and absolute power. For him to loosen the edge from his voice, it really blew her away, in a good way. But you know you can't run away. Not anymore. Not after you have your friends in the resistance. Not when you have discovered the Force. What is my place in this? She asked quietly. You have a vision, no? Rey blinked. The vision of a man in a mask. How do you? You have unwittingly forged a Force bond with me. A strong one at that too. Rey's cheeks flushed a bright pink. Do you know who he is? She studied the sand underneath her feet, not really sure what to say. Somehow, she had a feeling who the mysterious man was. But she couldn't validate it. I don't know. The Force never lies. It has told you who that man is. Naruto smiled knowingly at Rey. Say it. Say his name. Darth Revan. I have my suspicions for a while, but I'll take a wild guess and say you're part of the Shan bloodline. Shan. She looked at the blonde with piqued interest. It's a legend. Bastila Shan was the wife of Darth Revan, a Dark Lord of the Sith. He was once a Jedi Master, venerated by his peers as the prodigal knight of the Jedi Order. During the Mandalorian Wars, a bloody war he made our war with the Resistance looks like children's bickering. Darth Revan was renowned for his title as the Butcher, for he has killed thousands. But the bloodshed that he had wrought and the atrocity he had committed in the name of the Jedi Order had driven him insane. His fall from grace was a famous story. Rey listened intently to Naruto, but she couldn't help but study the peculiar scars adorning his chiseled cheeks. It was rather charming and cute. Rey hastily cast away her deviant thoughts and tried to stay focused. I believe Darth Revan is your ancestor. Naruto turned to her, and pointed a finger in between her collarbones. And you carry the blood of a powerful Jedi Master and a Sith Lord in you. What about my parents? Who are they? Why did they what? Abandon you? Rey resisted her urge to shed tears and tightened her fists till her knuckles went white. You know the truth, don't you? Naruto gently grasped her slender shoulders and made her look him in the eye. He saw an angel staring back at him with desperate hazel eyes. Rey truly had the beauty of an innocent maiden, yet her heart carried an unthinkable passion that confounded him. Rey hoping that there is a greater cause for what they did. But you know, deep down, you know the truth. You just didn't want to admit it. You want someone to tell you otherwise. Rey's lips were trembling. She almost flinched when Naruto tapped a finger on her lower lip. I'm sorry, Rey. Naruto's eyes were poignant, his voice was soft and sincerely apologetic, but there was a tone of kindness in there that managed to warm its way to her heart. I'm sorry you were abandoned in Jakku and forced to survive in that hell. No parents should subject their child into this. And I am sorry that your parents were good-for-nothing scumbags who sold you off for drug money. That snapped Rey back to reality. She pushed Naruto violently away and her glare exposed her bubbling hatred for the blonde. Lies. My parents. Your parents left you to die in Jakku, but their ship were attacked by a flock of hungry steelpeckers. They died somewhere in Jakku, buried underneath the sand. Forgotten. Wasted. Gone. Ironic. Really. And no. Rey broke down in tears. It's not true. Unexpectedly, Naruto pulled Rey into his embrace, his hands wrapped around her lithe frame tightly, allowing her to sob into his strong chest. The truth is hard to digest. I've experienced that myself. My parents made me a monster and left me to be scorned by the people of Konoha. I tasted the same bitter taste of betrayal, just like you did. I had nobody to go to. I was alone. It doesn't have to be this way for you. You don't have to be lonely anymore. And no. She tried to push Naruto away, but he was unyielding. She tried to hammer his fist at his chest in a futile attempt to separate herself from him, but the gentleness of his voice and the affection he had shown her had alleviated the pang in her heart. I don't know anymore. It hurts me to see you in pain, Rei. But you need to let it out. Just let it out. Soon. She ran out of strength to resist Naruto. She soaked in his scent as she poured her sorrow into him. Grabbing tightly to his shirt. I will always be here for you, Rei. Believe it. Naruto allowed Rei to melt into his arms, a sinister grin curled at his lips. Welcome home, Rei. Luke Skywalker was gravely perturbed. He felt a disturbance in the Force unlike anything he had ever perceived before. It was warning him about a foreboding danger. Someone who brought about the fall of the light. As he dug deeper, much to his horror, he realized that the perpetrator was Rei. He sensed Rei's heart being devoured by the dark side. After Luke had chased Rei away from the island, she had returned to the Resistance. That proved to be a mistake. He was wallowing in self-pity and despair that he had failed to see the potential within. Rei, he had cruelly rejected her, and now she had fallen in the hands of the First Order. That light within her that once shone bright was a mere flickering glow in a hall of darkness. The last time he had felt this sense of dread was when his nephew, Ben Solo, converted to the dark side. Not only had he failed Ben, but he had failed his sister Leia and his friend Han. They entrusted Ben's future to him and he had failed them, both as a Jedi Master and as an uncle. If he did not go into Ben's hut that night, if he didn't obey his instincts and tried to strike his nephew down like the fool that he was, perhaps all this misery could be prevented. No, he had to make things right. This time, he had to face his fears and undo the damage that he had wrought. Luke hoped he wasn't too late. Rei was used to crying herself to sleep. During those lonely nights when she was crammed in her makeshift home built from the remnants of a destroyed Edet, she had pondered to herself about her parents. What did she do to deserve this fate? Why did they abandon her? How could they let her suffer in this misery and famine? When Rei woke up from her slumber, she found her cheeks blemished with dried tears stain. Wiping it off with her sleeves, she stared at her quarter. For once in a very long time, Rei felt a sense of relief and peace in her. This was her moment of clarity. She had discovered the harsh truth about her parents, but she had also unravelled her heritage in the process, and it was all thanks to. Rei's eyes widened in horror and she cupped her mouth with a hand. Naruto Uzumaki, the Lord of the First Order. The culprit of mass murders. The conqueror of worlds. The evil of all evils. What was going to happen to her? Now that her faith to the Resistance had shaken, she didn't know what to do. Had she unknowingly submitted herself to the dark side? What was this feeling she had developed for Naruto? Thinking about him gave her butterflies in her stomach and made her cheeks burn a bright red. Snap out of this, Rei. She chided herself. I can't let him get to me. I can't join the dark side. She was the descendant of a notorious Sith Lord. The dark side was in her blood. There was no denying it now. Her musing was disrupted when Alma strode into her room. Annoyance was written all over her face. You overslept by 3 minutes this time. Get up, rat. Why yes. Clumsily, Rei bolted to the bathroom to get herself ready. Alma, however, was perplexed by Rei's change of attitude. The girl used to be sluggish and unwilling, but there was a fire of enthusiasm in her now. After thinking for a minute, she couldn't really come up with a feasible conclusion and shrugged to herself. Must be the Lambro shark that she ate from last night. People with weak bowels usually get diarrhea the next day. Must be it. Ey wasn't sure if Alma had the cognizance to differentiate training from torture. Alma insisted that Rei's training was light. Rei didn't think the term light training meant what her sadistic mentor thought it meant. No, light training didn't require one to perform suicide sprints, jumping jacks, squats, and push-ups till exhaustions. Hell, Rei suspected that she had almost gotten cardiac arrest during her 3rd set. By her 7th set, she had vomited her breakfast out. What she did afterwards were too hazy for her to recall. Rei was genuinely surprised she didn't slip into a coma after she completed the arduous training. Wait, Could she even describe what she had gone through as training? Ah, stop being a baby. Flipping a page across her orange book, Alma took a sip from her lemonade. A perverse giggle escaped from her lips occasionally. The training you just went through is only a watered-down version of what I did when I was an apprentice under Lord Naruto's tutelage. Rei laid on the floor. Her heart was pounding vigorously in her chest, her muscles were sore as hell, she was sweating all over, and she didn't have any energy to lift herself up. You're crazy. I got called worst. Alma shut her book and turned to Rei, her gaze steeled. I'll be increasing the intensity of your training every week. You will thank me later when you start to learn how to harness the innate power of the Force. Why will this? Rei coughed out. Why will this stupid training help me get in touch with the Force? Alma rolled her eyes. I'm not just training your physical aptitude. I'm also training your mental perseverance. You will need great willpower to balance the Force. Without it, you can kiss the Force goodbye. The mentality of not succumbing to weakness was the goal of Rei's hellish training. She could appreciate the rationality behind what she was doing, but that didn't mean she liked any of it. The worst part was that Alma intended to make Rei's tea, raining a living nightmare in order to force results out of her. Did Master Skywalker go through the same shit like she did in order to get where he was now? Probably. Regaining her bearing, Rei shot Alma a death glare. Stop reading my mind. You were easy to read though. Letting out a deep sigh, Alma stood up, threw her hands behind her back, and paced around the training field. In battle, you must never drop your guard no matter how dire the situation is. If you encounter an enemy who happens to be at the caliber of our Lord, there is no way you can do battle with erratic thoughts. Rei nodded to herself. But how can I achieve that? Do not slack in your training and you'll achieve it one day. Pointing a finger at the blackboard that was hung on the ceiling, Rei mused. Do you think I can have my name inscribed on that board one day? The blackboard contained a list of names, with Naruto's being emphasized blatantly. It was a symbol of strength for the Knights of the First Order. To have one's names imprinted on the blackboard signified one's authority too. Ultimately, it was a list that presented those who could utilize the Force to bench press the heaviest object. Rei couldn't believe it, but Naruto's record was bench pressing one friggin' Star Destroyer. Oh, you best believe it. We all saw him did that. It was truly a sight to behold. Alma smiled. The best I could do was lifting a TIE fighter. I'm more of a mind reader than a lifter, yeah. Rei giggled at how Alma pouted to herself. Truth be told, Alma's name wasn't very high up on the list. It's not funny, okay. Rei's mocking giggle erupted into guffaws. When she realized Alma carried a hurt look over her face. If there is one thing you should know about the Force, it is not fair. Imagine it as a cup. Most people's cups are so small. They can barely feel the gift of the Force. Others, like me, have a reasonable flask of power. We can't train to enlarge it. We are given what we are given and that's it. The most we can do is to learn how to tap into this marvelous gift. And then there is the freak. There is no boundary to Lord Naruto's power. Loosening the buns tied to the back of her hair, Rei blinked. Did you just refer to our Lord as a freak? I meant it in a good way. I'm gonna tell Tilda. Rei teased with an aggravating sing-sang voice, waving her finger disapprovingly at her mentor. You dare. Alma was furious. Sticking her tongue out provocatively, Rei climbed to her feet and bolted towards the exit. Her escape was for naught though, because her limbs were held back by an invisible force. This took a whole new turn for Rei. She used to be a grouchy Girl Scout, but now she took her training seriously and had the audacity to make fun of Alma. Frankly, Alma didn't know what was with Rei's change of heart. But she welcomed it. It was heaps better for Alma to deal with a cheeky apprentice than a goody two-shoe Jedi wannabe. You're 100 years too early to make fun of me, girl. Their moment was disrupted when Kylo Ren marched into the facility with a scowl plastered on his face. Rei could never forgive Kylo Ren for what he did to Han Solo. No matter how much Kylo Ren believed he was abandoned, he was not. Han Solo and General Organa loved him from the bottom of their heart. He had a family, someone who loved him, yet he treated them as trash. Rei was the one who was truly abandoned, left to die in a wasteland like a nobody. Scavenging and starving were all she knew growing up in a harsh environment like Jakku. There were times she had contemplated of slitting her wrist and ending her misery, but something had stopped her. Perhaps it was her weakness, but she clung on to hope. Kylo Ren didn't have to go through that. That's why Rey could never bring herself to forgive a scum like that. Alma turned to her apprentice, her eyes were ushering her to leave. Why don't you go wash up? I'll meet you later for dinner. Oh, Rey stared back and forth between the menacing Kylo Ren and her mentor. Okay. Taking a last look at Alma, Rey scrambled out of the training field. The atmosphere went dark and smothering when Kylo Ren and Alma were left to their own devices. They took a step forward, their gaze were intense, and neither of them were going to let this transgression pass. The fuck do you think you're doing, Kylo Ren? I'm just supervising your training for Rey. Making sure you're not screwing up. Kylo Ren shot an accusing glare at Alma. What are you doing? Playing dolls with Rey and holding her back. I can tell you're envious of Rey's power. You're sabotaging her training, aren't you? Alma scoffed. You see, Lord Naruto has entrusted my apprentice's training to my design. I don't need you to tell me what to do. You need to back the fuck up. Profanity. Really? Kylo Ren stroked his chin as he turned his attention to the mess in the training field. You were irrelevant before, a lapdog who begs for her master's attention, but couldn't amount to anything significant. I don't see why Master would pick a failure like you to guide Rey. Oh, that's really cute. You're talking from the side of your face. You're talking way over there. Alma pointed at the gym equipment where Kylo Ren was looking. Not right here, are you huh? She pointed to herself. What's the matter? You scared? Let me make this clear with you, Kylo Ren. You don't barge in here and start spurting your words of wisdom that nobody cares. You think I will roll over and play nice for a whiny, creepy little mama's boy like you? No explosive outburst came out of Kylo Ren, which Alma was expecting to see. Instead, he adjusted the collars of her leather jacket and grinned. One day, Master will realize how weak you are. That you weren't ready to have an apprentice yet. And if he wants to give you a chance to let you prove yourself, which I doubt you can, then so be it. But if Rey is still unwilling to join the First Order by the time this is over, then it's on you. Alma's eyelid twitched vigorously. That's on me, then. Oh, that's on you. So it's like that. Alma bellowed, ire blazing in her eyes. You better watch your back. Kylo Ren spun around and walked to the door. He had accomplished what he came for. It wouldn't be long before he had Rey all for himself. He couldn't help but snicker to himself. The imminent assault at the Resistance's base had disturbed Rey for a while now. Nobody was willing to disclose anything to her. Hell, even the stormtroopers possessed no knowledge of it. Naruto had played his cards well. He knew Rey would try to probe any tidbits of information if she could, so he purposely starved her off from any valuable intelligence. Twisting the knob of her shower, she let the hot water poured on her, cleansing sweat and fatigue from her lithe body. Now that Rey had discovered the truth about her purpose, the only reason she had ties with the Resistance was because of her friends. Their lives would be in jeopardy if she didn't do anything about it. There must be a way for her to deliver a message to them. Now that Rey had seen what the First Order was truly capable of, it would be too dangerous for the Resistance to fight them. Besides, there were some anomalous feelings she harbored for the enigmatic leader of the First Order. She couldn't properly describe it, but to know that the Resistance might attack the First Order and potentially murder Naruto somehow brought a pang to her heart. Why would she even feel that way? Was she worried for Naruto, the man who was hell bent on conquering and dominating everything? It couldn't be. There was no way she could feel anything for the blonde. Stockholm Syndrome. That's right. Her being captured must have put a toll on her mental psyche. This was just a phase. She just needed some time off too. Really? Is that really what you think? Rey jolted in fright and surveyed her bathroom warily. Do you mind? I'm taking a shower here, Lord Naruto. Your force bond connected me to your mind. Not the other way around. Ignoring her outcry, Naruto continued in a deliberate soothing voice. The Resistance are no better than a bunch of terrorists. They are weak, cruel, selfish, and capable of destroying the peace of this galaxy. I thought we have already established that. They only believed in doing what was right. Rey argued to the wall. But she knew Naruto could hear her loud and clear. What is right for you? Disrupting the natural order, sending people to die needlessly. All I ever wanted was to unite the galaxy under one regime. To ensure no war shall befall any civilization. If the resistance succeed, all the other planets will be in danger. I am the linchpin that binds them all. They bow before me in ear so that they will not kill each other. Liar. Rei banged the base of her fist at the wall. That's dictatorship. A man like you with absolute power will only bring destruction to the galaxy. Perhaps so, but you have seen it. Haven't you? The Force has shown you things. The visions. Not just mankind, but all life forms spread across the galaxy. They were all primitive. None of them could uphold an armistice. Do you really foolishly think people truly want freedom? No, that's not what they want. Go around and ask the war orphans. Ask the folks whose crops were dried up. Ask the farmer who needs to feed his family of 2. Ask the mother who needs to clothe her children. Is it freedom they want? Or is it the tools of survival that they need? Rei bit her lower lip. If this moment happened in a few weeks ago, she would have confidently shrugged it off. She would stand with conviction that her choice was right, that the resistance were the good guys and that Naruto was full of himself. But now, she wasn't so sure anymore. Now tell me, Rei, what does the resistance hope to achieve? Overthrow us, and then what? What's next? Let the warring planets fend for themselves. Let them embrace peace. Is that it? She could hear Naruto's cold guffaw. My dear Rei, you are a smart girl. You know better than I do. Give them the tools to start a fire and they will learn to use it for war. History has shown. Jedi, Sith, they were all the same. They were warmongers who waged war because they wanted to defend their ideals at the cost of billions of lives. Outdated values, uptight traditions, ridiculous laws. And you're implying you're the good guy here. I'm not. I am knee-deep in blood. That doesn't make me any lesser than General Organa though. In her perspective, she is fighting for peace. From my perspective, I am fighting for justice. Does that mean I'm a saint? No, never has been, never will be. Unlike General Organa, I will not preach about being the good guys. I am but a provider. Someone who guides others. I give people the means of survival and make sure they don't abuse it. A deterrent, if you may. Well, I won't bother you any longer. Take your time to think about it. Wait. Rei swallowed hard. You wanted to attack the resistance. Please, I'm begging you. I don't want to see my friends die. Help me save them. I'm sorry, Rei, I truly am. But the resistance must fall. The needs of many outweigh the needs of the few. Your friends should know better. They have made their choice. Now it is time to make yours. Are you going to forfeit this life that I am about to give you? Are you going to help the resistance destroy us, the peacekeepers? Or are you going to help me make sure that no child will suffer the same fate as you do? Will you help me save this world, Rei? Rei turned off her shower. Her glazed eyes remained fixated at the bottle of shampoo beside her. What should she do? Which side should she be on? Why must she make such an impossible decision? If she helped the resistance, then many people would die without the First Order's aid. If she helped the First Order, then her friends were as good as dead. Either way, she was either an accomplice to an inevitable genocide or a traitor to her own friends. The world was not as black and white as she naively thought it was. By the way, Rei squeaked indignantly and almost tripped on her footing. The next time you take a shower, try not to think about me too much. That way, I won't be forced to talk to you in your mind. Rosy pink dusted Rei's cheek as she tried to cast Naruto out of her thoughts. What the hell am I thinking? Covering her modesty with her towel, Rei walked to her closet to grab something to wear. Darth Talon despised Rei with a great passion. Ever since the desert rat had barged into her master's life, things changed too drastically for her liking. Her master didn't hold her as much as she liked. Her master didn't fondle her, caress her, and love her with the same passion as before. That damnable desert rat had cast a spell on her master and there was nothing she could do about it. Or does she? Don't think about it, pumpkin. Naruto sliced the pork roast with a rosewood forged knife. His eyes glanced up at the fidgeting Twi'lek. Rei is our family now. You will learn to accept her as one of our own. She is nothing. Darth Talon was seething. Electricity crackled around her fingertips. A Jedi lurks within our ranks, learning our principles. That is a recipe of disaster, my master. Can't you see? Rey is a threat to all of us. Instead of engaging a debate with his apprentice, he took a fork, stabbed a slice of meat, blew the heat off it, and fed it affectionately to her. She chewed the meat and inhaled the aroma, the gloomy look on her face wasn't wavered. Naruto pointed a finger at her lips, a thoughtful look marred his features. How do you like the pork? I have it smoked. Master. Darth Talon whined. Sakura. The Twi'lek's eyes widened. She was born a street urchin in some decrepit alley of Ryloth, nameless and scrawny. Naruto had found her being bludgeoned to half-dead outside an abattoir for stealing food. It was a mere ACLE she could be saved from her grievous affliction. When she come to, the first thing Naruto had asked of her was her name. She didn't have one, so she couldn't answer him. After a moment of contemplation, Naruto decided to give her one. Sakura. It changed her life. She was told the name belonged to a friend of his. A cherished friend. Someone who had been through thick and thin with him. She knew the name meant a lot to her master. So she vowed never to sully that name. No, she would rather die than to bring shame to her name. With her heart and soul, she devoted herself to her training and finally earned herself a place to be his lieutenant. To be discarded by a fucking nobody like Rey infuriated her. Her master had no idea how much she wanted to sneak into Rey's bedroom every night and strangled her to death. Rey was a liability, an uptight, self-righteous prick who didn't deserve her master's love and attention. Why must she share her master with someone like Rey? Was she not enough for her master? Enough. Naruto diced the carrots, but his tone was firm. Rey is family now. I will teach Rey about the Force the same way I have taught all of my apprentices. You have great affinity towards the dark side. Rey is your polar opposite. She has great affinity towards the light side. But I have also taught you to embrace the light. For Rey, she has to accept the dark. It is the only way for you to be stronger. Rey is a swine, a degenerate. She will betray all of us. And then she will lead the resistance to kill us all. Can't you see, master? Clicking his tongue, Naruto sighed. What is the real reason you're angry at Rey? I know it's not because she has the potential for being powerful. Come on, I want to hear it. Darth Talon looked away. Are you jealous? He grinned. It wasn't hard for Naruto to sense Sakura's rage. He surveyed the floating kitchenware around him with a raised brow. Seems like he had hit jackpot for this one. If there was one thing Naruto couldn't help the Twi'lek overcome, it was her tendency to get envious. Naruto shook his head and flicked his wrist, the utensils dancing in the air dropped like flies. Have I not showered you with love? Sakura, I gave you more than Rey could ever hope to give. I gave you my body, my soul, my everything. She protested vociferously. Wasn't that good enough for you? Salty tears fell from Darth Talon's eyes as she met with her master's impassive eyes. It was more than enough to answer her question. How could her master so cruelly divide his love for the sake of Rey? She was meant to be her master's lover, both in bed and in mind. Not Rey. That desert rat deserved nothing. It was not just jealousy that plagued her. Rey had achieved something that she had took more than a decade to do. Obtaining her master's heart. Hatred filled Darth Talon core. Call her a glutton, but no woman would want to share her man with anybody. If she was that same vulnerable and hungry little girl like she was back in Ryloth, she would have crawled herself into a ball and wept, because she wasn't strong enough to withstand the storm. Now, she was a changed woman. Now, she was the storm. The path was clear for her. She must eliminate Rey once and for all. General Leia Organa had never been happier to see her brother. She was heartbroken when her son defected to the First Order. She was in anguish when her brother left the resistance out of guilt, and she was in an abyssal pit of despair when her husband was murdered by her son. The complication that she went through almost drove her to the edge, but now she could finally have some semblance of peace. I miss you, Luke. Luke mustered a weak smile. Poignant sadness filmed his eyes. I'm sorry, Leia. Don't say that. Leia sighed as she nursed her forehead. I have already come to terms with my son's treachery. Ben Solo is dead. That is as real as it should be. As much as I hate to accept it, he has killed plenty of my men. Good men, Luke. Men who are fighting for freedom. Men who died for the sake of our cause. I thought he could still be redeemed, but he brutalized his father. The battle with the First Order was a futile one, something Luke had foreseen ages ago. Of course, his sister was unwilling to surrender. She was headstrong and stubborn like that, but there was nothing wrong with what she believed in. When Darth Sidious governed the Galactic Empire, it was said to be an impossible cause to defy him, and yet Luke did what nobody had thought possible. He overthrew the dark side and restored balance to the Force. Perhaps a new hope would arise for them. He held his sister's hand and stared apologetically at her. What Ben had done was unforgivable, and Luke knew how hurt Leia must be to know about such cruelty. Nevertheless, they needed to move forward. I'm here to speak to you about Rey. Leia shook her head. She was lost to us. How could that be possible? She was under your care all this time. Luke gritted his teeth. Why did you send her to the enemy? The dark side is strong in her. If she falls, the resistance goes down with her. You think I didn't know that? Pent-up rage was boiling in Leia's veins. I wasn't the one who gave her the order. She snuck in with the reconnaissance squad to infiltrate the First Order. I suspected Captain Poe has something to do with this, but what has been done has been done. By the time I knew about it, it was already too late. I can only hope she is still alive. She is. Luke was very sure about it. If he wasn't, the Force wouldn't compel him to regroup with the Resistance. And now she is with Snoke. No, not Snoke. A mixture of confusion and terror marred Luke's face. The Force had shown him revelation. Snoke was an illusion, something to divert the Resistance's attention to something else. Snoke never existed. Something darker and evil was behind this farce, and Luke must investigate. I'm not quite sure about the details, but we need to rescue Rey. Before it's too late. If Rey wasn't busy stuffing her face with food or training her ass off, she basically had nothing else to do. Her mentor offered her the privilege to indulge in her smut. Bore. Dom drove Rey to do things she didn't think she would do. She actually read the damn book, and it was a horrid experience. Who would write such a thing? That's why she decided to keep a copy under her pillow, so that she could criticize it more during her spare time. Rey didn't enjoy traipsing through the hallways of the First Order's Imperial Star Destroyer. She knew the stormtroopers were giving her dirty looks underneath their helmets, and there was also a possibility of meeting people she would prefer to avoid, namely Kylo Ren. Just as she was about to slide her way into the cafeteria, she came face to face with the man she wanted to avoid. Rey. Kylo Ren had discarded his menacing helmet, exposing his scarred face. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. She growled and wanted to walk away. But her path was blocked by Kylo Ren's imposing frame. Do not lie to yourself. You wish to ask me something that has been troubling you for a while now. The Knight of the First Order furrowed his brows. Now I'm here. Let's talk. I rather not. Rey was fighting the urge to shed tears. Seeing Kylo Ren's face reminded her of Han Solo. The tragic death of Han Solo still haunted sleeps, and she wasn't going to forgive this wretched man anytime soon. It is about Han Solo, is it? Gnashing her teeth, Rey snapped at Kylo Ren. Why did you hate your father? He didn't answer, not immediately. Why did you hate your father? She repeated, this time with more vigor and rage in her tone. Give me an honest answer. You have a father who loved you. He gave a damn about you. There was no life in his voice. Just a cruel monotone when he answered her. I don't hate him. Then why? Tears were already rolling down her cheeks. Why what? Kylo Ren raised a brow. Ask it. The audacity of this man. He was baiting her to ask him something so obvious. Rey bit down her lower lip. If Han Solo was her father, she would rather slit her wrist than to kill him. Why? She choked. In her sobs. There was no way she could ask such a horrible question with a straight face. Why did you murder your father in cold blood? My parents threw me away. Like garbage. Threw him away. Ludicrous. The one who was thrown away like garbage was her. They didn't. They did. The conviction in Kylo Ren's voice raised doubts in Rey. Your one weakness is your desire to have a family. I can understand that. You can't stop looking for them. It became your life's only purpose. That's why you saw Han Solo as a father you never had. And now in Luke Skywalker too. But you failed to see what they truly were. Excuses. That's why Kylo Ren was spouting. Trying to justify kinslaying with tautology. Rey gritted her teeth. She failed to see why Kylo Ren did what he did. My parents gave me away to a madman. A madman named Luke Skywalker. Kylo Ren's eyelid twitched when he spoke of his uncle's name. Did he tell you why I burned his temple to the ground? Rey wiped the tears from her eyes and stood her ground. Yes, knowing Luke, who always enjoyed playing the role of a saint, Kylo Ren was sure Rey didn't know the truth behind his betrayal. No, he didn't. Luke sensed my powers, just as he sensed yours. He knew I will one day surpass him. I saw it with my own eyes. He wielded his lightsaber in my hut just so he can strike me down when I'm at my weakest. I was his nephew, his apprentice. My parents trusted him, and he saw fit to murder me in my sleep. Lies. Rey couldn't hear it anymore. It couldn't be. Luke Skywalker was a man of righteousness. He would never resort to such a thing. But the anger and hurt in Kylo Ren's voice was too genuine to be fake. Liar. She called out. It was the only feasible thing she could say. Am I? Kylo Ren scoffed. Let the past die, Rey. Kill it if you have to. Why should I? Rey balled her fists. Why should I listen to someone like you? Do you know that I was supposed to be crowned as Darth Caedus? Master saw fit that I am worthy of being a Sith Lord. More than anybody else. I refused it, of course. Master has showed me the way. The Jedi, the Sith, they don't belong in the galaxy. Darth Talon was too foolish to accept that title. It's just vanity. She couldn't see the bigger picture. Being a Sith Lord is not a luxury. It is a liability. You get chained down to some philosophy that only bring ruins to yourself. Rey glowered at Kylo Ren. So you think you're better? Better than Luke? Better than Naruto? At that, Kylo Ren sneered. I am better than Luke. And one day, I will be better than my master. The apprentice will always surpass the master. You're a monster. Yes. Kylo Ren didn't even bat an eye when he admitted it. I am. But if you think my master is any less, then you're mistaken. My master is more terrifying than you can possibly imagine. Now, you're only scratching the surface. Think about it, Rey. The Knights of the First Order are powerful at their own right. Each one of us can take the likes of Luke Skywalker head on. We don't fear Master because he is powerful, Rey. Fear can only get you so far. It can't subjugate people who wouldn't bend their knees no matter what. We obey because our Master is power itself. Why do you think people worship gods and kings? Because they are incomprehensible, untouchable, perfection. And to be at that level of strength, you need to be the biggest bully in the playground. Rey snarled. Are you saying I would submit to him? At that, Kylo Ren refused to give a straight answer. I have seen it. You and me, we will stand together. Just you see. What the fuck? That was the first thing that came to Alma's mind when she took a sharp turn around the corner of the hallway and saw Kylo Ren harassing Rey. No doubt, the swine was trying to lay his slimy hands on her apprentice. She stormed towards them, but Kylo Ren had slithered away like a cowardly snake. Alma growled at Kylo Ren's retreating form. What did that little shit say to you? Rey looked away. Nothing. In a fit of rage, Alma whipped out her lightsaber. I'm gonna make sure he has nothing more to say to you in the near future. No, she pled to the Twi'lek. Please, let's just forget about it. Listen to me, Rey. Alma grasped Rey's slender shoulders and looked her in the eyes. You are my apprentice. Mine, not Kylo Ren's. If he tries that shit again, you report to me immediately. Are we clear about this? Rey nodded, but Alma wasn't satisfied. She cupped her apprentice's chin with her fingers and lowered her voice. Am I clear? Why yes, Master. Good. Alma smiled. Now, let's go grab lunch in the cafeteria. We got a long day ahead of us. If someone within the ranks of the First Order were asked to describe Vestara Kai, they would call her boisterous. A prankster at heart and a woman of immaculate beauty, she was the very epitome of a femme fatale. Raised to be a spymaster, it was said that Vestara was the shadow of the commander of the First Order. Infiltration, espionage, destabilization, you named it, she could do it and more. Perhaps one of her favorite tale was her misadventure in Tatooine where she convinced those primitive Tusken raiders that she was their queen. Long story short, she was so into being worshipped by the savages that she forgot to assassinate a local hut. Needless to say, Naruto wasn't thrilled. "Yo, master, I'm back. Miss me much?" Darth Talon sneered at Vestara, who didn't really pay her much attention. Of course, Naruto leaned into his leather throne and smiled at his apprentice. "What bad news do you bring today?" "Oh, nothing much. Just information about the Resistance's next assault. And here comes the icing of the cake," Vestara said in a sing-sang voice, and she licked her lips. "Luke Skywalker is back." Darth Talon raised a brow. But Naruto wasn't fazed. "That save us the trouble of finding him." Vestara grabbed a handful of candy from her master's desk, much to Darth Talon's chagrin. For reasons unknown, Naruto always kept a bowl of candy on his desk. Darth Talon had never seen him eat any of it, which infuriated her to the core, because it meant that he deliberately left sweets on his desk for Vestara, who so happened to have a sweet tooth. Peeling off the wrapper, Vestara threw the ball of sugar into her mouth gleefully. "Oh yeah, they are setting up a temporary outpost in Planet Hoth. Luke Skywalker will be there to supervise their establishment. My guess is that they are hoping to restore the iconic Echo base." Naruto did a sturgeon face. "Symbolic. That's good. Let us crush it and shatter their hope. What do you have in mind?" Stroking his chin, Naruto turned to Darth Talon. "I want you to lead the charge against the Resistance." A predatory smirk played about Darth Talon's lips. "As you wish, my master. Now that we have those agenda settled, let's dive down to the real topic." Naruto grinned. "I'm sure you have seen my new apprentice, have you not?" Vestara shrugged, her finger toying around with the ring of her kunai. "I spotted her when I was heading to your office. What do you think about her?" Vestara smirked lewdly. "She's cute. I wonder what she tastes like though." Darth Talon didn't bother to hide the disgust on her face. It was no secret that Vestara preferred to lay with women, and she wasn't very subtle about it too. Naruto rolled his eyes. "I'm not talking about appearance. Vestara, you want an honest opinion." He flicked his wrist. "Fire away. She has great conflict in her." Vestara unwrapped another candy. "She doesn't want to be part of us. But I can tell your brainwashing is starting to get into her. In time, she will fall. Only time would tell." "Good." Naruto snatched the candy away from Vestara's fingers, much to her protest. "I got a new mission for you." For the umpteenth time, Alma had smacked Ray's wrist with a short stick. "You are not listening. Your movements are telegraphed because of your eyes. It might work on greenhorns, but it won't work on experienced fighters. I don't even need to rely on the Force to anticipate your attacks. Stop looking at where you are going to hit and let your body do the work." Ray blew a disheveled lock of hair off her face and puffed her cheeks. "It's not my fault that my eyes automatically look at the spot where I want to hit. It's your body. If you can't control it, then who can? Now stop being a child and buck up." Alma hit Ray's wrist, making her apprentice, loosening her grip over her wooden sword. "What did I say about your grip? You're not holding a spear. You're holding a sword. The grip must be delicate. You can't be flexible and unpredictable if you're firm. You must be like water." Scratching her scalp, Ray stared in confusion at Alma. "I really don't understand. You want me to loosen my grip over my sword? Wouldn't that be counterproductive? I mean, in battle, I might drop the sword." Alma did a disapproving tisk-tisk and glared at Ray. "You are the sword. The sword is part of you. It is like your limb. Can you drop your limb?" The philosophy befuddled Ray, but she tried to absorb it. "Now, let us resume." Well. Vestara stood at the doorway of the training facility with a half-bitten donut in her hand. "What do we have here?" Alma roared and her cute apprentice. "I really didn't think this day will come." Ray blinked quizzically, surprised that there was a woman, a human at that too, in their mix. Exotic came to Ray's mind when she studied the enigmatic brunette. The most notable features of this woman was the intriguing G tattoo engraved above her left eyebrow and her bubbly persona. Alma pulled Ray protectively behind her and glared at Vestara. "What are you doing here? Ah, is this how you greet your fellow knight? You should really pull that stick out of your butt. It's no wonder nobody likes you." Ray balked at the revelation. "No way. A knight of the First Order." Vestara exuded no air of strength whatsoever, and Ray would know. Take her mentor as an example. Anybody who stood close to Alma could feel her creeping into their mind. Kylo Ren and Darth Talon, both powerful Sith Lords, possessed a smothering aura that threatened to nauseate those they deemed inferior. As for Naruto, his power was akin to a tsunami. Fierce, untamable, and threatening to drown everybody within his crosshair. Vestara just didn't have any presence. No, scratch that. If Vestara wasn't vociferous with her introduction, Rey probably wouldn't sense her. It was as if she was a shadow, intangible and undetectable. A nothingness. That is her most frightening skills. Alma answered Rey's conundrum. This is Vestara Kai, Lord Naruto's prime assassin. Her mastery over the art of stealth is peerless. She can literally erase her presence from the Force. Something that none of us can do. Vestara folded her arms, an impish grin curled at her lips. Don't worry, little Rey. I don't bite. You want a lollipop. Leave. Alma narrowed her eyes. If there was anybody amongst the knights who had an innate talent for besting mind games, it would be Vestara. The last thing Alma needed was for Vestara to sink her talons in her innocent and naive apprentice. You are interrupting my training. But that's precisely why I am here. To interrupt your training. Vestara giggled when she saw Alma's brow twitched. She always enjoyed irking the rigid and uptight Twi'lek. Master wants to see you. Yeah, right. Vestara arched a brow. All traces of amusement and joy vanished from her face. Do you think I will joke about something like that? Nobody had the audacity to lie about something like that, especially not when they had witnessed Naruto's wrath before. Conceding, Alma sighed and turned to her apprentice. Ritu, RN to your quarters and practice your meditation. Rey was surprised by how fast Vestara's mood changed. She went from happy and smiling to grumpy and solemn in split seconds. And now she went back to being jolly. That won't be necessary. Our master just want to have a quick word with you. It won't take long. 10 minutes tops, I promise. I will watch over little Rey while you're gone. Vestara gave Alma a cheerful thumb up. But that didn't bode well with the Twi'lek. She didn't trust the happy-go-lucky Vestara. Hell, she didn't even trust any of her fellow knights. That being said, orders were order. Reluctantly, Alma nodded and strode past Vestara, but not before she gave her colleague a warning. If you so much as touch Rey, I'll skin you alive and mount your worthless head in my room. Okay, ta-ta now. Vestara beamed at the fuming Alma and even gave her a mock two-finger salute. When Alma had left the chamber, Vestara turned her attention slowly to Rey, who shrunk. Inwardly, I don't think we have introduced ourselves. I'm Vestara Kai. I like sweets and cotton candy. I love musical theater. My job is to kill those my boss wants dead. My wish is to join a musical. What about you? Saying Vestara came on too strong with Rey was an understatement. She was practically shoving her face right at Rey, throwing comfort zones out of the window. Shifting uncomfortably, Rey's sight remained downcast. I'm Rey. Vestara blinked, her expression turned sour. That's it. I did tell you my likes and hobbies. You should, at the very least, have the decency to tell me yours. I'm just fucking with you. Vestara let out a loud guffaw and patted Rey rather painfully on her shoulder. So, any boyfriend? The sudden and very personal question caught the rather conservative Rey off guard. She almost choked in her spit and stuttered in her response. I don't. Do you like our Lord? A bright pink tint flashed across Rey's cheeks, something she failed to hide. Vestara caught on, ecstatic about her discovery. Oh, you do like our master. No worries, your secret is safe with me. I don't like him. Or anybody else. Rey was angry. How dare this woman tried to accuse her of having any romantic feelings for a monster like Naruto. A proverbial light bulb lit up in Rey's mind and she decided to execute a counterattack. What about you? Do you like Lord Naruto? Vase. Terra threw her hand around Rey's shoulders and pulled her close to her chest. Tell me, my little Rey, have you ever considered playing for the other team? And no. Rey pushed Vestara vehemently away. I'm not into. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Vestara waved her hand dismissively. You're not my type. Whistling a jaunty tune, Vestara plopped down on the floor with her legs crossed, tapping the spot before her at Rey. Gesturing the girl to join her. Come on. Don't be afraid. I am not intimidating, right? That's what Rey was afraid of. People like Naruto and Kylo Ren gave her a reason to be afraid. Naruto led the almighty First Order. Kylo Ren was a scumbag. That's established. Rey could associate fear with the likes of these people. For Vestara, Rey couldn't, and it frightened her. Because she knew very well that this mysterious woman didn't climb the ladder to be where she was if she hadn't gotten her hands dirty, and yet she couldn't bring herself to fear her. Rey decided to sit down and keep to herself. It was the only thing she could do now. By the way, did you hear? Luke Skywalker is back. At that, Rey's eyes widened like saucer. Master is so happy about it. All these years of killing small fries were worth it. Vestara said it as if talking about the weather. Skywalker plays a big role in this war, you know. With him out of the picture, the First Order's victory is certain. I received intel that he is making camp in Planet Hoth. Not far from here, actually. In fact, our ships are heading there as we speak. It won't be long before we blow them up good. What? Hook, line, and sinker. It is estimated in a few hours, we will reach that godforsaken ice planet. And then our master will deploy the knights to hunt Luke Skywalker down. There is even a bet too. Whoever puts Skywalker's head on a spike gets a super cool prize from master. I bet Kylo Ren is getting anxious about killing that old wizard. Y'all wanna join? This couldn't be. Wait a minute. Rey calmed her nerves. There was no reason why Vestara would disclose such valuable information to her with no apparent reasons. The only plausible conclusion Rey could come up with was that this whole tale was a trap. Designed to ensnare her. She won't fall for that. You must be think, oh, why is this crazy lady suddenly telling me all this? Am I correct? Vestara giggled. You want to leave this place, yeah. Rey averted her gaze and kept her knees tucked close to her chest. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, come on. Don't lie to me. I know you didn't swear fealty to master. Not yet. At the very least, you wouldn't be flustered if you did. It was then Rey realized something terribly off. Vestara reminded her so much of Naruto. Both of them were tremendously insightful. Both of them smiled a lot. Most of all, both of them had a knack of rattling her. You can't be loyal to someone you aren't loyal to, no. You want me to regroup with the resistance. Is that it? Is this some sort of test? Vestara shrugged. Call it what you want. I'm not wrong about what I said though. The Knights of the First Order are loyalists. It is this loyalty that binds us together. You don't have it. How could you be one of us if you aren't loyal to our master? Let's not be delusional here, yeah. You are a prisoner. That's all there is to it. The truth ain't gonna go anywhere. Be true to yourself. Don't let others tell you what you are. If you let them win, they become stronger. Anything you let win, the internal argument grows. Don't be what you don't want to become. I won't be fooled by your tricks. Rey growled. You're just like the rest of them. Trying to make me trip. Trying to make me leave the First Order. And then punish me for failing your stupid tests. I'm not gonna have it, you hear me? I refuse to play your stupid game. Have it your way. This is your one and only chance. If you really wish to leave, there is an escape pod at the south of the hangar. Bay. Vestara smirked. If you memorize the troopers' shift patterns, it's real easy to sneak your way there. You can even steal a TIE fighter if you want. Nobody is gonna stop you, if you know what you're doing. And you're gonna be there, waiting for me. Rey deadpanned. And then sell me off to Naruto and claim your prize. What do you take me for? A fool, a trophy that you can manipulate whenever you want and then throw me to the bin when you have no use of me. I am not stupid like that. No, you're not, but you also know I'm not lying to you too. Vestara wrestled herself to a standing position and stretched her arms. I don't care if you choose not to believe in what I said. At the end of the day, you are just a little lost lamb. This is a lion's den and it is no place for a lamb like you to be in. Follow where your heart wants you to go. If I don't hear news about your departure tomorrow morning, then I will assume you are ready to be a Sith soon. See you around. With a lax wave, Vestara strolled out of the training facility with a devious smile on her face, leaving a conflicted Rey to her own device. There was only one thing left for Vestara to do. Wait for Rey to take the bait. Shit. Please make this work. Please make this work. Shit, shit. Rey recited her mantra to herself over and over again, reassuring herself that she was going to pull this stunt off with flying colors. Sure, she felt mixed feelings about this. What if Vestara was messing with her? What if this was all a deliberate trap, made to test her allegiance? No, it's too late for that. Rey had already snuck her way into the hangar bay, hiding behind a cargo and waiting for the platoon of stormtroopers to leave. If she was right about the stormtroopers' schedule, then shish. He had a 5 minutes window to get into a nearby TIE fighter, boot up the system without being detected, get clearance without raising suspicions, and get the hell away from this hellhole. There was only one thing standing between her and her freedom, the clearance. How was she going to get clearance from the control tower? A Jedi mind trick might work, but she wasn't adept at it. That would mean she must secure the passcode. The only problem was that the passcode changed every 4 hours. Only a knight of the First Order could bypass the clearance stage. That's it. An epiphany struck her. Determined, Rey steeled her gaze, ducked her head out of her hiding, and took a peek. The stormtroopers were changing shift. Now was the time. Embracing the Force, she made a dash towards her designated TIE fighter. Nobody saw her climbing the aircraft and turning on the engine. I can do this. Rey took a deep breath and flipped on the switches. A bright smile curled up her lips as the first half of her plan was a success. Easy. I can do this, girl. I can. Alpha, this is Control. Verify ident immediately. Over. A buzz was heard over the radio transmission afterwards. Suddenly, Rey felt her heart racing. Squaring her shoulders, she swallowed down the bile of fear stuck in her throat and imitated Alema's voice. This is Commander Alema Rar. On my authority, Rey prayed that her memory didn't fail her. D 2618. Request permission to take off. A silence intruded. The intercom did not respond for over a minute. For what seemed to be eternity, Rey could hear her heart pounding vigorously. Was the ID she articulated wrong? Did she miss something? Arg, come on. Don't leave her hanging. Roger that. Cleared for takeoff. Stand by. Over. Rey let go of her hitched breath and sighed in relief. As she watched the airtight hangar door opened, she couldn't help but smile at her freedom. All the things that she went through had led to this moment. If she was being honest to herself, it wasn't a horrid experience. She befriended Alema, found out the truth about her parents, and discovered her heritage from the supposedly bleakest part of her life. There was no room for remorse, she told herself. This was it. Her freedom awaits. Unbeknownst to Rey, Vestara was in the control tower, watching her flawless manipulation took shape. Luke Skywalker surveyed the combat engineers setting up the old and dusty equipment in Echo Base. This brings back so much memories. Although the rebellion suffered a crushing defeat during the dreadful Battle of Hoth, the resistance could pick up the pieces. Scraps and leftover from destroyed at it could be scavenged to rebuild their base. However, there was a heavy tension in the air. Rumors had circulated amongst the soldiers that the resistance was depleting finances and resources. Some said this was their last stand. If this didn't work out, it would spell doom for all of them. They had to establish a secured headquarters here before the rest of the Resistance's fleet head over. Time was crucial, and the last thing Luke needed was his men demoralized, nervous and in despondence. All right, guys, gather around. Listen up. Luke climbed up to a stowaway carrier and raised his voice. I understand that this is a definitive moment. The freedom fighters dropped what they were doing and trudged their way around the Jedi Master. Now you guys thought my return will spark hope back to the Resistance. I am sorry to disappoint, but I am not a god. I am not impervious to injuries or death. I am but a man. A mortal man who is at the edge of his hope. Just like everybody else. Murmurs were heard amongst the soldiers, but Luke continued, his voice now brimming with vigor. But I have a belief that what we do now matters. Today, we are fighting against tyranny and annihilation. The whole galaxy is waiting for us to make our mark. That's why I want you to take a good look at one another now. The freedom fighters looked at one another. The will to fight started to blaze in their weary eyes. They are the reason why we are here. The spirit of our ancestors who died on this sacred planet for freedom, live on in all of us. None of you stand alone, not today. Today, we make a difference. Fire and passion burned in every soldier's body as they raised their fists high up in the air, roaring in unity. We will not let our brothers and sisters die in vain. We will not give up, no matter how much the odds are stacked against us. Today, we will stand and fight. The First Order shall know that evil does not prevail. The Resistance will bring hope to the galaxy once more. Just like that, the enigmatic and legendary Jedi Master lit up the fighting spirit of his troops. Uproarious cheers blared across the hall. The Resistance was ready. Now more than ever. It was then a soldier came and whispered something to Luke's ears. What? Rey is here. Are you sure? Yes, sir. She came in on a TIE fighter. Said she wants to speak with you. Luke couldn't help but smile. This was good news. Bring me to her. Hurry. Rey was apprehensive and the butterflies in her stomach weren't helping. Somewhat, she felt a sense of foreboding. As if she had missed out something. This was too easy, she thought. No, she squashed down those perilous thoughts. She had to be positive, but it was nerve-wracking. The Force was RNING her and she just couldn't figure out what was wrong. She escaped from the First Order. Checked. She had found the Resistance. Checked. She had ensured nobody had followed her. Double-checked. So, what the hell was missing? Why was she so afraid? Rey. All of her worries suddenly vanished when she saw Master Skywalker stood at the doorway, his jaw unhinged. Perhaps the exhaustion and paranoia was getting to her. But her instinct had kicked in when she saw the man who she saw as a father figure. She ran to him and wrapped her arms around him, holding him like a daughter would to her father. Luke blinked, unsure about what to do, but decided to gently and awkwardly stroke her hair. In truth, Luke had assumed the worst, that Rey had fallen to the dark side, but here she was. The Force had told him that Rey was still clean. She might have her doubts now with the Jedi, but her ironclad will had made her strong enough to withstand the temptation. Luke recognized that Rey had something that Ben didn't. A sense of self that was not easily bewitched by false hopes. Rey, what happened? Luke pushed Rey gently by the shoulders and stared into her eyes. How did you escape from the First Order? I just did. It's too complicated. That doesn't matter now. Rey shook her head. The Resistance need to evacuate now. The First Order knows you are here. There is a traitor amongst the Resistance. They know you are in Hoth. Quote. Luke nursed his temples. Rey, this planet is big. It will take them some time to even track us down. Besides, we're underground. They won't be able to find us so easily. No, you don't understand. Master Skywalker, you must leave. Now. Rey, enough. This is not up to debate. We are here to make our stand and you don't understand. Rey didn't know what triggered her rage. But Luke was horrified. His horror wasn't stemmed from her outburst, but rather her eyes. They were baleful and yellow, very much like that of a Sith. As she steadied her labored breath, she averted her gaze. Why you don't understand. The First Order is not what the Resistance thinks. There is something more to that. Please, you have to believe me. Snoke is not real, is he? Rey's eyes widened like saucer. How did you? The Force told me so. Luke smiled, reassuring his fidgety apprentice. Do not fear, Rey. We have a plan. No plan. Please, just listen to me. You have to get out of here. Rey was borderline hysterical. No, they couldn't. Even if Luke wanted it, most of the Resistance's force had established themselves on Hoth. If they would to leave Hoth without any accomplishments, no financial institutions in the entire galaxy would fund the Resistance anymore. The war would be over before they could even raise a blaster. I'm sorry, Rey, we have to. Warning. The siren went off like the doomsday was upon them. Warning. Rey's blood went cold. Oh, no. Warning, sir. A soldier bolted to the Jedi Master and hastily did a salute. The First Order. They're here. Luke was confused, but then his peripheral caught sight of the TIE fighter that Rey had arrived with. Dread coiled in Luke's stomach. This was bad. This was very bad. Rey, did you shut down the transmitter signal in that aircraft when you came here? When Rey put two and two together, terror marred her face. I didn't. You led them here. Naruto admired the white tundra that enveloped planet Hoth. Who would have thought such a pure wonder was once a deadly battlefield that almost crushed the rebellion? As he swirled his glass of vintage rum, he couldn't help but smile. Everything had gone according to plan. Rei had been a wonderful sport. She was as beautiful as she was naive. It was her innocence that captivated Naruto. In her desperate desire to save her friends, she had inevitably brought upon their doom. How beautiful and cruel irony could be. What was funny in this entire operation was that Rei thought she had finally found freedom. Freedom. Safety. That's funny. No, Rei didn't escape him. The cage that he had built for her merely expanded, but it was still a cage nonetheless. Putting fun aside, it would be too much of a hassle to find the Resistance's hideout. Yes, they knew the Resistance would station on Hoth, but that planet was humongous. They could place satellites all over the globe to try pinpointing the Resistance's coordinates, but that would take months. Maybe years, if they were unlucky. And that's banking on the fact that the Resistance would slip up and set loose some hint of their activity to them. When the enemy relaxed, make them toil. Basic art of war strategy. Never give the enemy a chance to settle in. The fatal mistakes the Resistance had made was investing their chances of victory into one basket. They wished to utilize primitive technology their ancestors used to fight against the First Order. It was a tactic without strategy, an obvious route to defeat. But all that would mean nothing if Rei didn't show up. Naruto knew Rei was capable of tracking down the Resistance. And tracked down she did. Thank you, Rei. Naruto downed his alcohol. The taste was as divine as victory. Darth Talon. Master. Go and bring me Luke Skywalker's head. Darth Talon grinned. With pleasure. Today, a new age had begun. Today, the Resistance would fall. Naruto couldn't help but let loose a cruel guffaw. Let me fight for you. No, Rei, you have done enough. But, look, Rei, the Resistance doesn't trust you. Luke sighed. As much as Luke hated to admit this, he couldn't trust Rei either. You have been with the First Order for far too long and so, you don't trust me too. Rei's voice broke. You're just like one of them, aren't you? The base started to tremble. Thunderous roars of star destroyers, onslaught were heard. Hell and fury was raining down on the Resistance's base, much to Luke's chagrin. This wasn't supposed to play out like this. He didn't return just so he could lead the Resistance to its doom. A miracle was bound to happen. It had to. Earn your place here, Rei. Join the battalion and Rei gritted her teeth. You're not hearing me. We have to evacuate. This battle is one-sided. You know it. I know it. The First Order knows it. If you send the Resistance to war now, you are fighting under the First Order's terms. I can help you distract them while you quote. No, Luke bellowed. We are on planet Hoth. This is our territory, and for that, we have the upper hand, not them. Do you understand me? This battle is over when I said it is over. So you can either join the fight or be marked as a traitor. Traitor. It was as if Rei's world had shattered. She had risked her life for the Resistance. She had betrayed Alma's trust just so she could warn her friends about the First Order's schemes. And yet she was to be branded a traitor if she didn't comply. I will join the fight. Good. Luke narrowed his eyes and turned to the monitor. We have a long day ahead of us. Darth Talon's finger was twitching with excitement and anxiety. All of her training had led her to this very moment. Fight a glorious battle and seize victory. This was what her lord had trained her to do. As the Resistance unleashed a barrage of bolts at her aircrafts, she returned the favor with fire and fury. Atop the snowy hill, it gave her the best view in the battlefield. Why do they even resist? Darth Talon shook her head. No matter. I am here for one thing and only one thing. Now, show yourself, Skywalker. As if on cue, she saw the gates to the Resistance base opened. Leading the Harge was none other than Luke Skywalker. She watched with glee as the Jedi Master plowed through her army effortlessly. Every swing he took with his green lightsaber, 3 stormtroopers fell. The wind turned into strong gust as Luke tapped into the immense well of his power, firing a blast of shockwave that propelled a platoon of soldiers flying skyward. Incandescent rage turned her eyes fiery red and she leapt to the sky. Dark clouds blanketed the sky and blotted out the sun. Ominous thunderstorm boomed across the white field. The Arctic wind went mad in intensity, something that caught Luke's attention. A streak of hot silver split the sky as Darth Talon became lightning and death. Luke sensed the looming threat and instinctively glanced up, only to see a thunderbolt pierced through the glacier before him. Darth Talon emerged from the smoke like a goddess of carnage had descended upon them. With her hands thrust forward, she fired a shockwave that pulverized the nearby enemy soldiers into ashes, startling Luke. In the process, she took in a deep breath and let out a deafening roar. A roar so shattering, everybody in the battlefield heard her. For the First Order, that was all it took to raise all of her troops' morale. In a blink of an eye, the tide of the battle shifted. The stormtroopers let out a unison of war cry and charged fearlessly into battle. They didn't care if they were about to die. Those who were injured had all but forgotten the pain and picked up their blasters. Those who were still alive and kicking showed the resistance why the First Order was feared throughout the galaxy. Suddenly, the stormtroopers became mindless beasts, slaughtering and destroying. Suddenly, they could fight the blizzard. As for Darth Talon, she had butchered her way to her prize. Luke Skywalker. Luke readied his battle stance. Monster. Darth Talon grinned darkly. Thank you for acknowledging me. Shall we dance? The First Order will fall, Sith. A psychotic GGLE escaped Darth Talon's lips before she swung her sword at Luke. Everything was falling apart. Rey could only deflect so much plasma bolts with her lightsaber before fatigue took her. Luke had given her explicit order not to wander into the battlefield, thus she was tasked with defending the base. This was not her day. As she hid behind a boulder, she felt a horrible sense of terror consuming her. Her body was shaking uncontrollably and beads of sweat were forming on her face. Darth Talon wasn't the only knight of the First Order on the battlefield. Hi, excuse me. If it wasn't for Rey's hardened composure, she would have screamed her lungs out. Vestara plopped down beside her. A goofy grin played about her lips as she sucked on her strawberry-flavored lollipop. Hey, you like my outfit? I stole it from one of the creeps back there. Now I'm a freedom fighter fighting a lost cause against the First Order. Hooray, you, Rey growled. This was all Vestara's fault. You tricked me. Oh, did I? Vestara giggled. Did I lie to you about the escape plan? No, I didn't, silly. You have a choice, and you made your choice. So live with it. You knew the TIE fighter has a homing beacon. All TIE fighter has a homing beacon. Vestara smacked her lips, savoring the sweetness of her candy. Hell, I bet the X-Wings have them too. Are you not a mechanic? Surely you have seen them before. So, how is this my fault when you weren't vigilant enough to pluck out a couple of wires before you flew for freedom? Rey gritted her teeth. She wanted nothing more than to wipe that goofy grin off Vestara's cheeky face. Damn her. That devil with the sweet tooth had deceived her. Now, the First Order was right in front of the Resistance's doorstep. And this was all her fault. In the midst of rage, Rey almost whipped out her lightsaber. Don't even think about it. That voice, the last person Rey wanted to see had finally showed up. She glanced up. Horror filmed her eyes. Alma, leave us, Vestara. It wasn't a request. Vestara pouted, sprung up to her feet, and blew Alma a raspberry. No fun. Oh well, I'm gonna go kill some Resistance scums. Oh jolly. Alright, Resistance scums, ready or not, here I come. And then she skipped her way into the Resistance base. Her maniacal laughter echoed and ebbed. When they were alone, Alma clenched her fists and shot vicious dagger at Rey. You have hurt me this time, Rey. I trusted you, and you stabbed me in the back. I'm sorry, Alma, for what it's worth. Rey's sight was downcast, her voice monotonous. I couldn't turn my back on Master Skywalker. Or my friends. A long silence intruded. Neither of them talked for a long while. A minute seemed to be like an eternity for them. The chaos and destruction rampaging in the battlefield didn't even faze them. I have a little sister. Her name is Numa Rar. She would be at your age by now if she was alive. Very charming and headstrong. You reminded me so much of her. We always butt heads. She was fire and I was ice. But no matter what, we loved each other. But she died, in my arms, on a cold, winter night. All because I wasn't strong enough to protect her. All because I wasn't good enough. The darkness might have cast a shadow over Alema's eyes, but Rey knew her master was crying. Somehow, thorns prickled her heart. Rey knew deep down that she had hurt Alma and no explanation could absolve her from treachery. Granted, she was a prisoner, but Alma had never treated her as one. Hearing Alma wept really smothered Rey. I saw you as my little sister, Rey. I love you, Rey. More than you know. Rey's frame was trembling. You have betrayed me, Rey. You have single-handedly erased all form of nostalgia and love I have for you. Alma glowered. Her voice was colder than the wind of Hoth. The war will soon be over. Once the Star Destroyers touch down, the resistance will fall. A few thousand troops can't stand against 3 Star Destroyers. If you surrender yourself to me now, Lord Naruto is willing to spare any soldiers from the resistance who surrender themselves. Their lives are in your hands now. Kylo Ren couldn't allow Darth Talon to hog all the fun. If Luke Skywalker were dead, he could finally avenge himself. All those years of hatred festering in the back of his mind had exploded into something more deadly. Now, he finally grasped clarity. Without hesitation, he dove down to the battlefield, slicing and dicing all those resistance scums. Hoisting his hand in the air and twitching his fingers in a gripping notion, Kylo Ren drew out the pow of the Force and strangled the nearby enemies. Flicking his wrist, a sadistic grin curled at his mouth as he watched his victims' necks twisted to impossible angle. A volley of bolts flashed at his peripheral and he raised his hands, stopping plasma projectiles in midair, much to his enemy's shock. With a snap of his fingers, he launched those plasma bolts back at his enemies. Guttural scream, Miz of death rang in the air and Kylo Ren relished in his triumph. More. He wanted to kill more. He needed to massacre all of them. Unsheathing his lightsaber, Kylo Ren bifurcated his enemy in half. Blood and gore splattered on his coat. But he paid it no mind. More. He needed to kill more. More. No, he couldn't afford to be distracted. Calming his frenetic mind, Kylo Ren steeled his gaze. There was only one reason he was here. To cut Luke Skywalker's head off. Luke parried another strike from Darth Talon. Sparks and fire spew out from their clashes. Like a wild beast, the Sith Lady was formless, unpredictable, and unorthodox in battle. Her tactic was simple: destroy everything with brute strength. The frightening quality about her was the bloodthirsty grin plastered permanently on her face. She didn't care if his lightsaber grazed her forearm or he buried a fist into her gut. No pain could deter her from her conviction. Just what kind of monsters were the First Order hiding? You fight like a brute. You won't win. Really. Blue lightning circulated around Darth Talon's fingertips. I'm still standing though. She's right though. A menacing voice intruded. While Luke was distracted in his battle, he didn't pay attention to the destruction around him. The overwhelming fleet of Star Destroyers, TIE fighters, and an endless waves of stormtroopers had almost wiped out the Resistance's army. Darth Talon's lightsaber retracted in a sharp buzz, signaling the end of their fight. She took a step backwards, allowing her master to take the stage. Hello, Luke. Naruto was swathed in his black cape, exuding a vile and nauseating dread that smothered Luke. He resisted his urge to snicker. Seeing the look of terror plastered on Luke's dumbfounded face, watching as the resistance crumbled before him. All of it were more exhilarating than he could imagine. I don't believe we have met in person, have we? Swine. Luke spat. Ben fell to the dark side because of you. And now you have your claws on Rey. I may have let it happen, but I didn't instigate anything. He came to me because of you. Naruto gave Luke a wink, aggravating the Jedi Master in the process. I recall. Led you were the one who fell to the dark side first and tried to murder your own nephew. Or did I get that wrong? Luke grimaced, but he swallowed down that moment of weakness. I was wrong, but Naruto waved a finger. There is a fine line between thinking about murdering your nephew and actually trying to murder your nephew. Only a Sith deals within absolutes. Sadly, Jedi are no better. You crossed the line of no return. You tried to kill Ben and inevitably give birth to Kylo Ren. Now, tell me, oh great and awesome Luke Skywalker, did you win the Best Uncle Award of the year? Luke let loose a roar and charged at Naruto. How un-Jedi-like. Naruto shook his head and clicked his tongue in disapproval. With a raised finger, Naruto snickered as Luke froze to his feet, unable to move a single muscle. Struggling with gritted teeth, the Jedi Master tried to resist, but it was like trying to free himself from steel chains that enwrapped him. The more he writhed, the tighter the telekinetic hold. It was like being squashed by a pair of boulders. You know what is your greatest mistake, Luke? Naruto hid his hands behind his back and took a stroll around Luke. You see yourself in a delusion. I don't blame you. People tend to ennoble themselves in their own stories. To fix what is broken inside them. And through that, you believe you have a choice. To make things right. That's what all Jedi believe. But what you don't know is that choices are not a pyramid to something better, but a maze. Every choice you make brings you to something, or send you spiraling down to madness. Evidently, that's what happened. Kylo Ren stood beside his master, his hand resting on his lightsaber strapped to his waist. The predatory gleam in his eyes already spoke true of his murderous intention. He had been dreaming about this day for years. Anyway, we have to get the show going. Naruto looked behind his shoulder and saw Alma holding Rey captive. Broken and despondent, Rey's eyes were vacant, almost deathlike. With a flick of his fingers, he silenced the howl of the wind and vaporized the thunderclouds. It was starting to bother him. When he took notice of Rey's whimpering, an insidious idea came to him. Alma, will you be so kind as to pass Rey her lightsaber? Alma nodded and returned Rey her weapon. Now, Rey, I want you to do a favor for me. Press that button on your lightsaber and cut Luke's head off. The tone of Naruto's demand was like addressing the weather. It was light and carefree, almost insouciant. Naruto drew out a long sigh when Rey shook her head frantically. She was convulsing on her knees, rocking back and forth. Now, I know, this will take some time for you to process. You will have plenty of time after this. If you don't, however, I will kill all of those so-called friends from the resistance who have surrendered to me. And then I will torture Luke myself. Painfully, slowly. Believe it, I have tons of experience torturing people. I'll let him live for a year or two. And when he is about to draw his last breath, I'll let Kylo Ren finish him off. And then I will send his head to Leia. Ribbon and all. Please. No, Rey cried. Her blood thundered in her veins as she gasped for air. Please. Or you kill him yourself and I'll let you bury him here. Your choice. This was it. Rey's final stage of her training. Whatever decisions she made, it would be a plus to Naruto. Severing her ties with the light would complete her journey to the dark. If that meant beheading her former master, then so be it. Kill me, Rey pleaded. Kill me instead. Don't make me count, Rey. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.